Okay, I should be live. We should be live. Let's see. Okay, I should be live. Ooh, I can hear myself. There we go. Okay, that audio actually sounded good. So it's been a very long time since I used this computer for streaming. Actually, we need to probably lower the mic output so that it's not too loud or whatever. I don't know exactly how that's going to come through. But anyway, so this is going to be the final day of the Monster Hunter Wilds open beta test. And I've been doing a lot of tests, so I actually looked at how many hours I've already put in here. And Steam says I've already put 18 hours in this game, even though this isn't even the official game. So I think this game is amazing. We're gonna look at how it runs on the final test PC. This was the secret PC that I saved until the very end. So this is the Intel Core i9-13900K. So we looked at Intel's new Core Ultra 7 265K yesterday morning, and then we looked at AMD's Ryzen 9 7950X3D in the afternoon yesterday, which was about 24 hours now. And then yesterday evening we looked at the Ryzen 9 9950X. So we covered like 3 CPUs in one day. We did a lot of live streaming because this game is super hype. A lot of people who watch my streams probably don't understand how big this franchise is, but that's totally fine. We're going to look at the 13900K because the Intel Ultra, the new Intel Core Ultra, seems to not run the game as well as people expected. It seems like it's not performing that well for some reason. Although the 13900K doesn't fare that much better, although it is doing pretty good. It is basically the same as, I would say it's between like Zen 4 and Zen 5 in terms of how it performs. It might actually be equal to Zen 5 now that I think about it, looking at these CPU bound numbers here on Afterburner. As you guys can see, we're in the 50s. It dips into the 40s and it goes up into the 50s. This is a CPU bottleneck. It doesn't matter what graphics card you have. If you go into the city and you see all these players on the screen, the CPU will be the limiting factor. You can run a 4090 and you'll get the exact same results. You can run a lower end 6900 XT and you'll still get the exact same results as shown here. So just to kind of go over the settings here, or the system specs, so that we can do the full thorough thing here. So okay, one thing I really like about Monster Hunter's UI in the settings, they actually show you your PC specs. So if you don't know what you have, you know, you can easily look it up in the game without having to ask somebody or do something if you're not that technically inclined on this sort of stuff, or if you bought like a pre-built or whatever and you kind of have a general sense of what it is but you don't know the exact parts. So this is the system that we have for testing today. This is going to be the final system that we end the Monster Hunter Wilds beta test on, because this is the final day. It is the end. And then we're going to have to sit all through November, all through December, January, and February until the game finally comes out. So it's about 4 months of waiting for the final game. Hopefully they do another open beta test. I don't think they will. I don't expect them to, but it would be nice if they do one later on, just because I really wanted to see how this game ran or runs on the PS5 Pro. The PS5 Pro is coming out later this week on the 7th, this coming Thursday, which is the next episode of Tech Thursdays. So if you guys are new to the channel, I do a live stream Tech Thursday show every Thursdays, and we talk about stuff like this all the time, whether it's PC gaming, PC DIY, the consoles that are kind of adjacent to this market, etc. High-end servers, whatever, workstations like Threadripper. We actually did a live stream on Threadripper with this game. It ran this game marvelously. So anyway, looking at the specs here, we have the Intel 13900K. This is the Intel 13 Gen. This CPU is basically identical in performance to the i9-13900K. So if you have a 14900K and you're curious, if you're watching this after the beta is over and you're curious to know how your CPU will handle the game, you can watch this video because these are the exact same results. So the RAM is 64 gigabytes of DDR5 running at the maximum supported speed for the 13900K and the 14900K, which is DDR5 5600. We are running this with all the latest BIOS updates because I know that there was a lot of controversy around this CPU and the 14th gen CPU earlier this year with the infamous Vmin issue, which caused physical damage to the CPU, which is irreparable, and you would have to replace the CPU. So we have all the fixes for that, so we don't have to worry about that. I can compile the shaders all day. We're not going to crash. RAM is running JEDEC because we're enforcing all the Intel default limits to prevent any kind of overvolting or things where it could cause the Vmin issue to manifest. And then for the GPU, we're running the AMD Radeon RX 7900 XT. So this is the cut down version of the 7900 XTX, which we did showcase yesterday on 2 different live streams. We did a morning one with the Intel Core Ultra CPU. That one was paired up with an XTX, and then we also yesterday evening we did the 9950X. Actually, I should show you guys the CPUs. So the original stream that I did, if you haven't checked it out, I want you guys to check it out if you're really curious in Monster Hunter World and how Monster Hunter Wilds and how it scales, because I tested it initially with the Threadripper. This is the AMD Threadripper 7960X, and this was paired up with an RTX 4090 with 128 gigabytes of RAM running at 6400, and it was registered DIMMs, and that system ran the game really, really good, but it shows that the game has issues fundamentally with the game engine. RE Engine doesn't scale well with NPC and player data, and the memory management system could be a huge bottleneck. So with quad channel memory, we kind of blow that out of the way and just brute force our way through it with hardware. Then what I did was yesterday morning we tested with the new Intel Core Ultra series. So I tested it with this and the 7900 XTX, and it ran pretty good. Like, it's running a lot better than the people that are complaining on Steam forums about the performance. But it is brand new, it is very high end, it's not very practical to expect people to go out and get something like this, or let alone a Threadripper, just so they can play this one game. So I totally get that. And hence that's why there's so much frustration online right now with people running on what I call pandemic PCs, aka PCs that are 4 years old or older, and they're having trouble running the game. It's going to be interesting to see 1300K compared to the Ryzen, but you're running at 5600. No, this RAM is good. This is the sort of RAM that you would want to run with a 1300K because it has CL30 and it's very low latency. So 7900 XTX seems really good for the price. Yeah, if you really want a lot of VRAM, that's probably the way to go. 7800 XT will be very good for 1440p, but don't expect 4K with that GPU. 4070 Ti Super, which is extremely close to 4080, is a decent buy now. Okay, I mean, I guess the problem is Nvidia is refreshing their GPU lineup early next year. So I guess it's like, yeah, if you buy it, I hate to recommend stuff that is so close to getting replaced. That's why I don't really like recommending any of the 40 series cards right now, because I really want to see what Nvidia is going to announce. Because if history has taught us, Nvidia will basically shut out the previous generation of their new features. So case in point, most of the people online are playing this game that are complaining are playing this game on a 30 series graphics card, and they don't have access to frame gen, or at least the Nvidia frame gen, so they're having to rely on the AMD frame gen, which is technically not supported because AMD doesn't test with their competitors' parts. So they're kind of stuck in a weird limbo right now. So that's why I feel like if somebody goes and buys a 40 series today, and then Nvidia announces 50 series in like a month from now, 2 months from now, whatever, and then it launches like early next year, and then they announce some special feature that you know they're going to make exclusive to the 50 series, because that's exactly what they did with the 40 series. They locked out 30 series from having access to frame gen and the newer DLSS versions. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't really... So anyway, the next CPU that we tested yesterday, though, after we tested the Intel Core Ultra, we did test with the best performing CPU of the bunch, which was the 7950X3D. So this one's 3D V-Cache basically brute forces its way through any kind of CPU bottlenecks. So this one had the best performance out of all of them. I went back and I checked the stream footage, and sure enough, X3D was the top performer. And then probably the second best one, by a small margin, was the CPU that we tested yesterday evening, which was the new Ryzen 9 9950X. So this is basically the live streamer PC, or the live streamer CPU. This one ran the game very similar to what you're seeing right now with the 13900K. However, the main difference is the power consumption. So the 13900K, you guys can see, we are currently pulling, sitting here doing nothing, we are pulling 120 to 127 watts. So it's like 125 or whatever. It's probably the average. We have this on a Noctua NHD14 air cooler. This air cooler is like 12 years old or something. And so these are the temperatures that we're running with a Noctua air cooler. But that doesn't really hinder us when gaming at all. That's only going to be a problem if you're doing like video rendering or multi-threaded, fully loading up the CPU, and it's running to like, 250 to 300 plus watts. Then Noctua can't really handle it. But for gaming, air cooling with the 1300K is totally fine. I've been doing it for like 2 years, and then we have no problems. And then the GPU 7900 XT, you can see this is the AMD reference XT card. So this is basically the one that you can buy off of AMD's website. It is probably the cheapest one, or one of the lower cost 7900 XTs. So this is probably the cheapest way to get a whole lot of VRAM, because this graphics card just low-key has a lot of VRAM. It has 20 gigabytes of VRAM. We never have to worry about whether or not the game's VRAM or the game's video memory requirements are going to become a problem. And we're also playing the game at 4K, although we are using upscaling, so we're currently actually rendering the game at 1440p. So, and that's kind of how it is for this. I always test 4K, as you guys can see, because I only game at 4K. So anyway, and you can see this thing is being fully utilized. It is at like its max power limit of around, I believe it's like, it maxes around 300 to 315 watts. I forget what the actual TDP number is on the 700 XT. But yeah, this is pretty much what I would consider a decent PC for running this game at release when it comes out next year. So this is basically how the game runs with a CPU bottleneck. You can see we are hovering around 50 frames per second. You saw me building a PC with a deep-cool LT720. I don't think it's the best water cooler. But see, the thing is, I don't have a lot of experience with liquid cooling. I don't normally do liquid cooling. So, currently, the LT720 is sitting on a table doing absolutely nothing. It isn't even in a computer build right now. What you guys didn't realize is after I did that stream, I think like a few days after that stream, I actually removed the liquid cooler and put an air cooler on the 9950X. Currently, I use a Noctua NHD15 with the 9950X, and that's what I've been using with it for, like, way after I did that live stream. So, yeah. But You can use liquid cooling. I mean, it's totally fine. I don't like liquid cooling personally. But, you know, even this 1300K, we're using an air cooler. So, and it's fine. We're running at like 70, and our temperatures are in the 70s. So I don't care. It's totally fine. So yeah, this is going to be the final stream. This is what I considered the secret build. This was the last PC on my list, and I was kind of subtle about it. I didn't really want to give it away that I was going to stream on Sunday with another computer. Although I went back and I was putting timestamps in the last live stream yesterday evening, and I was like, oh wait, I actually did kind of allude to this being a potential secret stream. But anyway, because you guys can see, like, I'm not in my normal environment. If you can tell, the camera is different. The camera is much more lower quality. I don't have my podcaster microphone. I'm literally talking to you guys on a gaming headset from Audio-Technica. So it's like, this is what I'm using. This feels like, this is the most amateur setup I have right now. It's definitely not set up for live streaming. But this is basically what I can throw together real quick without having to tear up or change my entire setup. Yeah, see, you don't even need to spend a lot of money on cooling if you're going to use the 9950X. That's what's good about it being so energy efficient. 42,842 Cinebench is an insanely good score regardless. And that's with a $50 air cooler. I mean, that kind of proves my point. Like, liquid cooling is kind of a meme. It's sort of completely unnecessary for most people. The only time liquid cooling is actually necessary is if you're doing overclocking. And when I say overclocking, I'm not talking about undervolting, because undervolting is not exactly overclocking. Undervolting is trying, I mean, it's, I guess you can consider undervolting a form of overclocking. But you talk to anybody who overclocked 10 years ago, they would kind of laugh if they heard you say that you undervolted your CPU to overclock it. The reason why people undervolt to overclock nowadays is because they're trying to get better margin out of the silicon, assuming they got a decent overclocking chip. So that's less leaky and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that here. That's completely unrelated to Monster Hunter Wilds. That is a more technical discussion. But anyway, the gist of it is, you don't need a liquid cooler. They're way more higher maintenance. I mean, guys, I'm literally using a 12-year-old air cooler that still has the exact same fans on it from over a decade ago. Leobo, thanks for the sub. Main motherboard is Tai Chi. Didn't you fall for the Nova? My main motherboard is the Tai Chi. My main motherboard is not the Tai Chi. The motherboard, well, okay. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the tier list video. If you guys watch the tier list video on the motherboards, everyone's probably like, oh, the Nova, Nova, Nova. Yeah, the Nova is the best value. It is the king of value. That doesn't mean that the Nova can do everything that you could possibly think of in terms of the use case. The reason why there are different motherboards is because there are different...
Did you get new headphone? It sounds different, smiley face.
Well, the reason why I sound like this is because, yeah, I'm not using my regular podcaster microphone. So I'm actually talking using this gaming headset. This is an Audio-Technica gaming headset. This is probably one of the best cheap gaming headsets because this is open back. This is not a closed back. I can't sit and stream for hours with a closed back headset. That's too much noise isolation, and also your ears can't breathe. So I'm using an open back Audio-Technica gaming headset with this microphone on it, and that's how I'm able to talk. Because this is not my normal streamer environment. We are in like a completely different environment because the 13900K is used... I don't use it for gaming, guys. Like, it's used for like a completely different purpose. So I kind of was like, you know what? I think it would be interesting to showcase how the older Intel CPU handles this game, so I have a frame of reference comparing it to the Intel Core Ultra, which I used yesterday, as well as compare it to Ryzen and X3D and Threadripper and all the other stuff that we've done. We've basically done a whole mini-series at this point on Monster Hunter Wilds and took advantage of this open beta test because this is the last day. So this will be the very last stream before the game finally launches. So we're going to have to go into like a dark period for 4 months with no Monster Hunter Wilds. Which motherboard did you put the 9950? The one that I did the live stream build with. Go check out the live stream build. It was the motherboard that was featured. Wait, I've done multiple ones. I've done multiple different live stream PC builds recently. The one from the end of September, I think it was September 30th. But did we finish going through all these specs? So hold on, let's finish going through this. So this is the 13900K. The rule of thumb on the amount of memory that should be run is for every core, you must devote, ideally, 4 gigabytes of system memory. So this CPU, and wow, the lighting in here is changing because I have a window in front of me and it's really dark and rainy outside, so that's why the lighting is really bad in here. And also this webcam is like super old, so this is not my normal streamer setup, by the way. But anyway, for every core, you should have 4 gigabytes of system RAM. So in the case of this, Intel advertises this as a 24 core processor. So you do the math, 24 times 4 equals 96 gigabytes. So the proper recommended minimum of RAM for a 13 or 14 900K is actually 96 gigabytes of RAM. So we are actually undersized on the RAM because I'm only running 64 gigabytes of RAM. However, my reasoning is the game really only leverages the P cores for the most part, and there's only 8 of those. So if you do the math, 8 times 4 is 32 gigabytes. But we still need some RAM for the E cores, therefore we have 64 gigabytes. So we're sort of in that range, but when you think about it, also the thread count, the total thread count on the CPU is 32 threads, and you divide that in half, you would get like 16 cores, assuming it was that sort of homogeneous CPU architecture, kind of like on the Ryzen. If you guys notice with Ryzen, it has 16 cores and 32 threads on the Ryzen 9. That's basically the rival to this CPU, so like a 7950X, for example, or a 7950X 3D. Those are 16 core. So those would be 64 gigabytes of RAM because it's 16 times 4 would be 64 gigabytes. So if you take it like, okay, 32 threads, divided in half, so that'd be like roughly a 16 core count. That gets you 64 gigabytes of RAM. So this is not terrible, but this is not ideal, if that makes sense. But so 64 gigabytes of RAM is sufficient for what we're doing here for this game. But ideally, the 13900K should be paired up with 96 gigabytes of RAM if it was to be used as a productivity machine. If it's just used for gaming, 64 gigabytes is the correct number. Otherwise, anything less is too little and will cause resource congestion issues, potentially, with the memory management system because of how the cores need access to read-write cycles on the RAM and the copy cycles, etc. I don't want to go into that. That is an entire computer architecture course. We're not going to talk about that here. But just know that this CPU is built sufficiently such that we're not limited on RAM. Anything less than 64 could cause problems like micro stuttering, or every now and then there could be like a rare instance of like, why is the FPS dipping? Well, it's because the system RAM is probably too low. Alright, so now the GPU 7900 XT, yeah, that's fine. And then the video memory, this is the cheapest graphics card that offers like 20 gigabytes of VRAM. So very, very good value. Probably this and the GRE variant of this, which is a further cut down variant of this. And this is a cut down variant of the XTX, which is the full die. This is probably like the value king right now if you can find one of these, because it's like 20 gigs of VRAM. The game uses 7.6 gigs at 4K, so that's That's not terrible. We've seen games that use a lot more than that at 4K. So this is totally sufficient. Like, you could get by on like a 16 gigabyte card, for example. That's probably fine. But 20 gigabytes, you know, that's just better. So, and then the GPU version is from September. So I'm not on the latest driver, but I'm using the same driver that I tested with the 9950X system yesterday. And then the system is direct storage compatible. The way you get this to show up like this, you must install the game on an NVMe SSD. If you maybe if you install it on SATA SSDs, it might show up as compatible, possibly. But I don't think if it's on like HDD, I think it would say something different, but I'm not sure. Someone would have to test that to confirm. But I don't think anybody these days are installing like multiplayer modern games on a traditional hard drive. I think that's something that nobody does anymore. You're going to buy a discounted XTX. Yeah, the XTX is... If you can find one of those for a good deal, then get that. Otherwise, for the majority of people that are probably going to be playing this at 1440p, we're going to be showing how this game runs at 1440p on this system. We're actually running it at 1440p right now due to FSR quality for 4K. 4K native, or 4K... If the monitor is 4K, and you turn on FSR and you set the upscaler to quality, that basically means you're playing the game at 1440p. So we are playing the game at 1440p. Let's go ahead and look at how it runs here. So that sums up the graphics for the test system that we're using. So anyway, this is the CPU bottleneck. There's nothing you can do about it. This CPU doesn't do that bad though. This is actually quite good. This is much better than what a lot of people have been complaining about. So this is with no frame gen. This is just straight up, you know, 1440p, and this is the CPU bottleneck. You can't get out of it. There's no way to escape it. We're basically in a Faraday cage, aka CPU bottleneck. There's no way out of it. If we go away from the people, we can minimize the bottleneck. Now you can see when we're away from everyone, we are now at 60, right around 60 frames per second. So you can see that that is the definition of CPU bottleneck. We have done this test. This is now, like, what is this? This is the 5th computer? Or is this? Yeah, this is the 5th computer that I've done this test with. So yeah, it's, and then here again, CPU bottleneck. Then we go outside, and no more CPU bottleneck. But the game is only really right around 60. You know, like, it's really only around 60. So, what we do is we can come in here and we turn on frame gen. This is how the developers intended you to play the game if somebody desires higher frame rate. The developers have already stated this, that the game was designed for to achieve a frame rate above 30 frames per second. That is what their design goal was. They did not say 60 frames per second. They never said that. So all the people online complaining about poor performance, dips below 60, the developers are basically like, they hear that and it's like in one ear, out the other. It's like bypass mode. I don't see anything wrong. Do you see anything wrong? No, it's totally fine. It's like the dog meme in the burning house. This is fine. There's nothing wrong. This is fine. FPS 45. This is fine. That's exactly what the developers think. So, in that regard, they have added a feature called frame generation to the game. That's the reason why it's here, and they expect people to use it if they want higher frame rates. So they're not going to do anything. Don't expect Capcom to do anything to improve this game from what it is. People thinking that between now and launch they can magically make the game perform like 20-30% better, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. The game is already completely done 100%. It's been done since March or April of this year. And all they've been doing over the summer was testing it with their test teams and their third-party test teams under NDAs and all this other stuff. And then they wanted to stress test the servers wide scale, hence why we have the beta test. So all they're trying to do is stress test the server. Because this is a multiplayer game. They're not going to fix anything. Like, the game is done. The game's been done since, like, the spring of this year. You know, like, from a development standpoint, they haven't touched this. Like, unless, like, okay, during the internal testing, yeah. If someone filed a bug report, they would fix bugs. But fixing a bug is completely different from, like, optimizing a game to make it run, like, 15-20% better. You know, like, no one's going to do that. That's not how it works. Like, people who are complaining about that, I get them. I understand this frustration of using a 4-year-old computer and hoping that the computer can handle the game. But that's just not the reality, and the developers don't see it that way. There's a disconnect. There's a mismatch between, like, what the gamers expect. They have this kind of expectation, and the developers have this kind of expectation. So there's a mismatch, and that's why there's a lot of people complaining online, on Reddit, on Steam forums, like even people on the PlayStation forums, on Game FAQs were complaining about PlayStation performance being really bad. And that's why I was thinking, you know, they should have launched this beta test like after the PS5 Pro came out. Because, I mean, although people might, you know, conspiracists are probably like, well, you know, that's a way for Sony to sell PlayStation 5 Pro. You know, well, okay, maybe you can look at it that way. But we don't even know how this runs on the PS5 Pro because they launched this test before the PS5 Pro showed up. It's like, hey, Vegeta and Nappa showed up to Earth. Goku's not ready yet. He's still in Otherworld. He doesn't get here till Thursday. What are you guys doing? Like, see, that's what happened. That's basically what this beta test is. So, anyway. The mic quality gave you nostalgia? What? Oh, because it's a gamer's mic? Is the audio too loud, guys? You guys let me know, because I'm monitoring my audio, and I do see it going into the red zone. Is it too loud? Because I can turn it down. If it's peaking too much, like a 12-year-old on Xbox Live 2008, you know, let me know. Like those Halo 3 lobbies, if you know what I'm saying. It sounds unlike other streams. It's not going to sound like the other streams, because it's a physically different microphone. I don't use this headset when I'm live streaming. That's the thing. Like, I'm only using it because this is the 13900K. I don't normally live stream or even game on this PC, and it's like, well, you know, this is what I had laying around, so just connect it, and let's just run with that. RX 7900 GRE, if you can find a GRE, get the GRE. The GRE is going to be really, really good. Otherwise, if you can't, the 7800 XT is fine. But, yeah, like, see, the thing is, the game runs fine if you use FrameGen. The reality is the game runs fine if you use FrameGen. Other than the ghosting thing, which Capcom did say that they are going to work on, by the way. So that's something that I wouldn't worry about. That's obviously something that will get improved by the time the game releases in 4 months. We go in here. I want to show the CPU bottleneck, though. Like, let's induce a CPU bottleneck with FrameGen and show you how the game runs totally fine despite running into a CPU-bound scenario. We just have to wait for these people. Why does it take so long for them to load in? It's like, come on, guys. That's your cue. That's your cue. Where is everybody? We gotta give them a second. They're hiding. Where is everybody? Where is everybody? Is it Sunday? No one wants to play this or something? Everyone's too tired of playing it? They're burned out? They don't want to burn themselves out before the release? I mean, they've still been waiting 4 months. Man, where are all the players? Okay, see, here they come. Now they're coming out of the woodwork. Everyone's showing up all of a sudden. Okay, here we go. So now we've induced a CPU bottleneck. And see, now we've lost about anywhere from like 10 to 20 frames. we've lost going into a CPU bound. But it's still like 90 something frames per second. So it's still good enough. Like, this is why there's really no problem. Like, as far as the developers are concerned, there's no problem. Now, man, this CPU though does use a lot of wattage. This CPU is pulling 100. I saw it spike to 157 watts just now. Whoa, 96 Celsius. Do you guys see that? The 13900K is getting 96 Celsius. 100 degrees Celsius. Whoa, that CPU. Whoa. Whoa, that CPU. Man, the 700 XT is just sitting there at a locked 81 Celsius on that reference air cooler. But that Intel likes to jump around. That thing likes to, that thing's on a trampoline. That thing's on a trampoline. It can jump up to like 100. It can hit 100. Did you guys see that? I'm trying to get it to jump up to 100 again. Oh, 93, 95, 90, 97. Wait a minute, stand here again? No, 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 no. Get off the mount. Get off the mount. No, hold up. There's a spot. You just stand at the spot. It's the CPU hotspot. You stand there, and the thing just like goes to 100 degrees. Whoa! 100 degrees. Whoa! Oh, I love it, man. This CPU has been living like this for 2 years. All these other people with liquid coolers, they burn their CPU out because of Vmin. Meanwhile, this thing on an air cooler. Come on, where's that spot? I want it to go to 100 again. Oh, wait, wait, well, 100. Whoa, what the? What's the wattage when it does that? Does the wattage spike to like 250 or something? You know what that must be? That must be the PL2 activating. That's the tau value allowing the PL2 to activate. It's trying to kick in the turbo boost to try to get to like 5.7 or 5.8 or whatever the technical Fmax is on this. That's hilarious. Wow. Okay, well, let's do something here. Let's, well, I don't know what else to show. This is basically how the game runs, though. So it's like, yeah, if we're out here, you know, it runs fine. This is really good. Like, so I don't really see a problem. And I would imagine anyone playing on, like, mid-range hardware, you turn frame gen on, and, okay, this assumes that you're on an appropriate monitor for your graphics card. So every time I see somebody say that they're struggling to run the game at 4K on a 4070, I just immediately like scroll past the complaint because to me that's not an actual complaint. That's someone who doesn't understand how computer hardware works. They bought a graphics card or they bought a monitor that is not correct. It's like your shoe size. You wear a size 11. Why did you buy a size 13.5 shoe? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what that logic is to me. Like, if someone's like, oh, this game is trash. My 4070 can't handle 4K resolution. This game is garbage. The developers are terrible people. This game should not exist. You know, like that. What is that? Like, what? That argument sounds so illogical and irrational. Like, it's completely like null and void argument right there. Like, 4070 plus 4K. This game is terrible. It doesn't perform well. You know what? Okay, turn frame gen on, then what do you get? It's probably still not going to be playable, though, with frame gen, just because 4K is just too much for a 4070 to handle. Hey, Mando. It's been a while. It could also be that it uses AVX2 instructions right there. You can tune the extra voltage down. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, there is, like, the sun. It's not the sun. It's still, like, a really cloudy day for me. But it was raining, so I opened the blinds, like, way up. Now I'm getting, like, way too much light in my eyes. I'm going to get a headache. Because the window... There's a window directly behind the monitor. And I'm trying to read the chat. And yeah, so we're going to have to adjust this real quick. This is, like, too much light. Well, that's probably better. Okay, that's definitely much better. Now, everyone's writing on the chat is not like so blown out from the sunlight, like just, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm doing good. Ryzen motherboards have thermal shutdown. Yeah, but the thermal shutdown has to be like really high. I think the CPU has to get up to like 115 or something, or 100 and whatever. Yeah, man, this is crazy though. 92 degrees. This thing really, like, that's crazy. This runs that hot. This is the reason why I never used this CPU for gaming though. Here's the thing. The reality is there were studies done by Intel and I guess some other people that they contracted to do these studies to try to root cause what was causing those CPUs to fail before they didn't understand. But they were trying to correlate like what was the scenario that could lead to that. And the most common scenario was somebody using the i9 with a liquid cooler. The better your cooling was, the more likely you were going to kill your CPU with the Vmin. The worse your cooling was, the less likely you were going to ever have a problem. That sounds counterintuitive, but let me explain, because it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So, the way that these CPU's boost algorithms work is they're basically polling the thermal sensors, the temperature sensors, to figure out when and how often they can boost. And the people who were on air coolers, like me, on a Noctua, a regular Noctua from 12 years ago. This is an ancient air cooler. Literally, it's super old. So it's like this thing with the same old fans, the same dust on the thing. It's just sitting there doing its thing. The reason why I never ran into the problem is because the Noctua, because the CPU heats up faster than someone on a liquid cooler, the boost cannot boost as aggressively and quickly. It has to boost slower, and it has to like not ramp up as quickly, if that makes sense, because the sampling interval from the thermal sensors are telling the CPU, you're gonna heat up, you're gonna heat up. It's like, can I boost? You're gonna heat up. Can I boost? You're gonna heat up. So what does it do? It's like it doesn't as aggressively push voltage. Versus someone who's on a 360 or a 420 AIO or a custom loop, those people were going to kill their CPU faster because the thermal sensor is like, it's cool in here. It's cool in here. Can I boost? It's cool. Go for it. Can I boost? It's cool. Go for it. But then the thing is, it's like aggressively spiking the voltage. It's like, because the CPU's like, can I boost? The thermal sensor's like, yes. Can I boost? Yes. Can I boost? No. Can I boost? Yes. Can I boost? Yes. Can I boost? Yes. Can I boost? No. It's like that. Versus if it's the Noctua or an air cooler, it's like, can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. And the reason why I'm saying no is to simplify no thermal headroom. No thermal headroom. No. It's like the system is constantly checking in like, I don't know, like milliseconds, nanoseconds, whatever. Not nanoseconds, but like millisecond response times here. And it's like, can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. So the Noctua is basically holding it back when you think about it. The air cooler is basically preserving the CPU because it's like every now and then it'll be like, can I boost? Yes. Because the threads are like super low or whatever and there's enough thermal headroom. So it's like out of 100 cycles of requesting for boost, the Noctua will tell the thermal sensor, like detecting from the Noctua air cooler, will be like, okay, out of 100 requests, you can boost like 15 times. Whereas if you're on a liquid cooler, out of 100 boost requests, you can boost maybe, 60, 65 times or something like that. You know what I'm saying? That is why the vast majority of people who suffered from the infamous voltage degradation of their 13900K and 14900K, in some cases 14700K and 13700K, but that was really rare. It's because they were on very high-end cooling. The people who never had the problem were believe it or not, were the people like me who are like, oh, I see it going to 100 Celsius. Oh, it's 100 Celsius, and it'll never die. See, that's the thing. It'll never die. It's because it's constantly getting up there more frequently in that higher temperature range. Every time it's like, hey, can I boost? The thermal sensor's like, no, you can't. Too hot. No, you can't. Too hot. Can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. So it's like that. It's like there's a constant like, and then every now and then it'll be like, can I boost? Yes. So it'll do it. So that's why the people on air coolers never had to worry about the CPU. The reality is, even people who don't know how to update their BIOS, and they bought a pre-built that came with an air cooler, like a dual stack, like a deep cool, or a Thermalright or whatever, like, or just some kind of air cooler that's like an OEM version of those type of air coolers, like the Noctua, they'll never have their CPU die. And they'll be like, you did something wrong, because it's like, I've had the CPU for like 4 years, and it's never, and it's, you know, like I've been gaming on it all the time, and it's never had a problem. They'll never run into the problem, even if they never update the BIOS, because they're on an air cooler. So the air cooler protects them. See, that is the reality. So Intel figured that out. I mean, Intel wasn't the only one that figured that out. Some other people, some other like tech channels also figured that out. But I think my explanation is much easier to understand the situation, because the way I'm thinking about it, it's like you got the CPU and you got the thermal sensor, and it's like, can I boost? No. It's like if you're on a Noctua, can I boost? No. Can I boost? No. Can I boost? Yes. Can I? Okay, then he does it, and then it's like, can I boost? No. It's like that. Whereas you're on liquid, can I boost? Yes. Can I boost? Yes. Can I? So it's like, oh, let's boost. Okay, 1.5 volt, 1.5 volt. It's like doing that, 1.5 volt, like micro voltage, and that's what eventually killed the CPU. So anyone who was on a big liquid cooler, though, if you're on a big liquid cooler and you're on a 13900K, you better get on the latest BIOS ASAP. Because you're only asking for trouble long term if you leave it on those old BIOSes that had unlimited power mode, for example. So that's kind of I don't even know why we went on this tangent, because this has nothing to do with Monster Hunter, but that basically closes the loop on like why that problem was happening and what caused it. Threadripper has been under a full cover block pull, 100% loads. So, yeah, well, the Threadripper is completely different. It's completely different engineered design. It's not the same. Because of how hot the CPU is running for you. Wait, what are we talking about? Yeah, so I never had the problem. What about water cooling? I mean, you can do water cooling for AMD. It's totally fine to do water cooling for AMD. So there's like no reason why you can't. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do liquid cooling. If you like liquid cooling, if you want to do liquid cooling, regardless of whether you're on AMD or Intel, you can go ahead and do that. There's like nothing wrong with doing that. What I'm explaining here is how that Intel problem happened, or what was actually happening. Like, what was the CPU doing to itself, and what was the logic? Like, how did it actually happen? Well, it was the interaction with the thermal sensors and the CPU, like, detecting whether or not there is thermal headroom to boost. Now, because air coolers tend to run hotter all the time, you know, unless the CPU is doing literally nothing, the air cooler has less thermal headroom, therefore less opportunity and less frequency to boost. I shouldn't say frequency, that'll make people think of the CPU frequency. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the intervals at which the opportunity arises for the CPU to boost to its maximum speed, but it'll require voltage spikes. The opportunity for that to happen is far less likely to occur when you're on an air cooler, because these CPUs are so power hungry. So that is why that is fine, or that is how that happened. That is how air coolers protected the CPU from itself. That sounds like some kind of weird, I don't know, like almost like some kind of philosophical thing. You've heard there was a buffer overrun in the microcode that wasn't caught in testing. I mean, that might have been one of the earlier BIOS updates, but they had to do like 3 or 4 BIOS updates to actually like finally close the loop on that. You said you didn't know even why you got on the subject. That was why. Oh, because of how hot. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because you guys can see, like, even here, this is the CPU bound, like 97 degrees Celsius. Do you see that? It just went 97 degrees Celsius. So it's like, so you can imagine, it's like, the reason why, I'm telling you, the reason why it went 97 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Celsius is because that was an instance in time where it was like, can I boost? And the thing was like, yes. So it did it. And that's why you saw the temperature spike. See, it's not happening that often because it can't do it because the average temperature is relatively high already. So it's not able to boost as frequently to the max speed. Every time you see it go to 100 degrees Celsius, it's because it asked the thermal sensor, can I boost? And it said yes. But all the times that you're seeing it stick in the 80s, it's saying no. So that's why it is the way it is. So once again, my trusty air coolers, they come to the rescue. They just act like they're the guardians of time or something. I don't want to say guardians of the galaxy, but you know, the Noctua, the Deep Cool, the D14, the D15, the U14S. They're a team. They're just my air coolers. I only have like one liquid cooler. The only liquid cooler I've got is the LT720. The one that you guys saw me do in the live stream build, that's the only one that I have. I don't have any other liquid coolers. And I'm not even using it. We might use it for the 9800X3D though, and the reason why I might end up using it for 9800X3D is because I literally don't have any other coolers on hand right now. Like all my air coolers are currently deployed. They're all field deployed. They're all in use. The only cooler that's sitting around with nothing to do is the Deep Cool 360 AIO LT720. Everything else is doing work. That thing sitting there on a table doing nothing. So that's probably gonna go to the 9800X3D though. Let's just like run around, I guess. There's like not much to do. I should probably get into some hunts. Whoops. I should probably get into some hunts with weapons that I haven't fully tested yet. Like for instance, I need to do the great sword. I haven't really looked at the great sword, so we'll probably do a hunt with the great sword today, and then I think that's really the only one. Oh, the long sword, which I have no idea how to use properly because it's been so long. The long sword and the great sword are probably the only two. This is an interesting area. Problem is they won't fit in a rack mount. What are we talking? Oh, yeah. Wait, what do you mean they won't fit in a rack mount? Oh, you mean like a 1U server? Oh, I didn't realize it got back to the camp like this. Air coolers? Servers use air cooling. I'm not sure what you're talking about. What type of rack mount are you talking about? Almost every server, except you're talking about like modern ones. You're talking about like Sapphire Rapids and those things that have liquid cooling. Most servers are all air cooled. They just have fans that are running at like 3,800 to 4,000 plus RPM. So that's how they do it. When you say rack mount, though, are you talking about? Because when you say rack mount, I imagine a 1U server blade, or not a blade server, a rack server. A rack server is like 1U. It could be 2U, but I'm thinking like 1U, 2U. But when someone says rack mount, I immediately think of like an enterprise data center type deployment, where we're talking about, you know, like Dell, EMC, HPE, Cisco UCS, like those are air cooled. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can't fit. Like, what are we talking about? Are you talking about like your own home server thing that's rack mounted? You walk into a server room and tell me that isn't air cooled? Yeah, that's before you lose your hearing. Yeah, I mean it's all air cooled. I'm not sure what we're talking about. You're talking about a home rack mount? Oh, well... yeah, that's not going to be a 1RU. That would be like, what, a 3 or 4U, sized thing? Well, I kind of wanted to try... what's the other weapon that I didn't get good? Oh, you know what? I didn't try the Lance. Code Lance is the other one. How does the 1300K compare to the 9950X? Basically, so far it seems like it's the same. I think it's a little bit... It's probably like 2 frames. I can't tell a difference actually. Like I would have to turn off the... So, I caught the footage of it without frame gen to see. But see, it's like 50... We gotta wait for the people again, but they're already here. It's basically like lower 50s, upper 40s. So, however that compares to the 9950X, I think they're probably the same, to be honest. It seems like it's the same as the 950X. Oh, I need to do a hunt. So far, the best performer of the bunch has been this one. The 7950X 2D was like number 1. This one stayed above 60 with no frame gen in the town. All the others would dip into the 50s, from what I could remember. The Intel Core Ultra, this one was probably the worst one, to be honest. I think the 1300K is definitely doing better than this. So Intel's new CPU is definitely slower than Intel's older CPU for Monster Hunter. Like, guaranteed. You go look at the footage from yesterday, there's proof right there. And on top of that, this was using a higher end GPU. This was using an XTX, whereas here, we're only using an XT. But that doesn't matter, because when you're talking about a CPU bottleneck, they're going to have the exact same frame rate, irrespective of what the graphics card is. I could stick a 4090 in here, and we'd still get the same frame rate in the city. Just saying. So that's the definition of a CPU bottleneck. We'll look at how the cores are utilized after this hunt. So I'll show Task Manager next. I forgot to show that at the beginning. Yeah, so your liquid cooler is going to cause the voltage to run higher more frequently. The liquid, if you're running 69 to 70 on your liquid cooler, you know what that means? That means your voltage spikes are far more frequent and more aggressive than if you're on air. Hence why people on air never had the CPU degrade. It sounds really weird. I mean, it sounds backwards, but that's the reality. And we've already explained that, so I hope you were here to hear that explanation, because I think that was a really good analogy that I came up with on the spot. Alright, we're teaming up with Waldo. Waldo and Toshi. Or no, not Waldo. Alright, Wall, let's go do this. Because it's still 100%. Oh! What the? What was that? Oh, did he? What? How'd the cave-in happen? Well, that was quick. I jumped on its back and then... Oh, I guess that guy, like, dropped the cave thing, whatever, on top of that. That was probably the fastest hunt. Wall did all the work. Congratulations. Actually, let's, oh, whatever. Let's go back. If you activate all core boost... What is that? What is all core boost? Okay. Yeah, I encourage you guys, if you're only tuning into this stream, you haven't seen my other streams, we've been streaming on a whole bunch of different PCs. Like, this is the 5th computer. This will be the last one. Unless I want to start testing like 8700G, but I think there's not that much interest in that. So, this will be the last one. But if you haven't seen the other streams, do check those out. We did 3 different live streams yesterday. We did Core Ultra in the morning, we did 7950X3D in the afternoon, and we did 9950X in the evening. So today we're doing 13900K, and then on Friday we did Threadripper. So we've covered basically like from the highest of the high down to like more kind of in the middle enthusiast gaming CPUs. Basically, I would say all the systems that I have showcased are what I consider enthusiast gaming PCs. Because most people, like, they're not really going to buy an i9, they would buy an i7. That would be the smart choice for a gaming PC. Same thing with the AMD stuff. Like, most people, they would buy a Ryzen 7 7800X3D or a Ryzen 7 9700X, because that's even cheaper. So, I mean, they would buy like a Ryzen 7 typically. So the gamer crowd is pretty much the 7. You know, the enthusiast crowd would be more like the 9, 7 or 9, depending on how much they value the CPU. And then the more like, how should I put this? The more budget conscious people who just want to play the games. They don't necessarily care about overclocking. They don't care about having, you know, like 4K maxed out, whatever. They can buy the i5s and the Ryzen 5s. Like, and those are probably the ones that go into a lot of pre-builds, to be honest. So, the 5s are gonna do fine. Like a 9600X, a 14600K, they're gonna run this game fine. They're just not gonna boost as aggressively as the 7s and the 9s. Yeah, the 13900K is fine. Like, the only thing about it is it's power hungry. You guys can see here, it's pulling 140 something watts. The reason why the winner of this contest is the 7950X3D is because this thing, you guys can go back and check the stream. I had the wattage numbers on the stream. This thing only pulled like 55 watts. It was like 55 watts. It was anywhere from like 55 to 65 watts. It was, so you can call it 60 watts. 60 watts while playing this game maxed out with the RTX 4080 Super, and the thing's pulling like 60 watts max on average, you know? So the efficiency of the X3D is basically the king. Not only that, it was the best performer. So it did the best in the game, and it used the least amount of power. You can't argue against that. This is a 16-core, 32-thread processor. This thing has the same number of threads as the 13900K. It uses less than half the power to play the game, and on top of that, it's getting better frame rates. So it just straight up wins. It just straight up wins. Like, that's it. Like, that's all there is to it. Then, the 9950X is very similar to the Intel 13900K results that you're seeing here. I'd have to go back and look at the footage, like what were the numbers, but from what I could tell just playing the game, it feels exactly the same. Like, I can't tell the difference in the experience playing this on the Intel 13900K versus the Ryzen 9950X. So they're basically identical. I don't know, one might be doing a little bit higher than the other by like 1 to 2%, but I have to go back and look at the footage because I can't actually tell what the difference is in playing through the game. Then the one that did the worst was the Intel, the brand new Intel Core Ultra series. This is their new 200 series. So something about this CPU is just strange. Like, to me, it comes across as a mobile laptop CPU that they adapted to work on desktop. Kind of like the Ryzen 7 8700G. The fact that this thing has an AI NPU in it, just like the 8700G has an NPU in it, the fact that next year we're going to see these go in laptops, in the mobile variant, or the lower power limit variant, I should say. So it just feels like a laptop CPU, so hence the reason why it's probably doing a lot worse in gaming than everyone expected it to. But yeah, the Core Ultra did not do good. It was basically like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, it's playable, but it was the worst performer in the city. Like, we were in the 40s in the city, whereas with the Core Ultra, just kind of the TLDR, this was in the 40s in the city. As you guys can see, we got to turn this frame gen off real quick. So here it is. So we're in the 50s. Oh, wait, it dipped to 40. Well, hold on. Well, was this the moving average? I don't know. Wow, it's doing worse now for some reason. It's kind of like 48. So what I'll say is the 13900K. The 13900K. This thing, this CPU did about 50. It does about 50, 52, anywhere from, like, you can see 47 right now. 47 to like 52 in the city. The Intel Core Ultra, the newer Core Ultra, did about like lower 40s. It's like 41 to 43, as low as like 39. So it was like, it was not good. It was just not good, especially considering it is a brand new CPU that just launched. The fact that it's about 10, it's like anywhere from 7 to 10 frames per second worse than the 13900K, which is literally 2 years old now, is not a good look. I wonder why we're doing 40s now, because we were doing like 51 earlier. But we're still averaging upper 40s. The Intel Core Ultra averages lower 40s, whereas this is upper 40s. So, hence why it's kind of disappointing, like Intel Core Ultra is a huge disappointment. See, now we're back up at 51. Yeah, 51 is the number that I remember in my mind. And I think the 9950X is around the 13900K. It's either like right at it or it's like a little bit ahead of it. But it's like so close that you would never be able to tell the difference. If I didn't have the frame rate counter on the screen right now, you would never be able to tell the difference, or I would never be able to tell the difference between the 9950X and the 13900K, because the fluidity of moving around feels the same. As somebody who did a 4-hour live stream with the 9950X yesterday, this feels the same. It feels fundamentally the same as that CPU. But I'd have to go back and look through the footage to see, like, was that one actually faster than this one? Was it equal to it? It certainly wasn't slower than it. It's either going to be equal to it, or it would be like a tiny, like 1 to 2% faster than this. But other than that, they're basically the same. So, yeah. Okay, now what I wanted to show you guys, let's show how the game, because I showed Task Manager on all the other systems, so we're going to show it here. So this is the Windows 11 Task Manager, and you can see how the game utilizes the previous generation Intel CPU. Now, this is very different from how the cores were distributed on the Intel Core Ultra. If you guys went back and watched that stream was actually hilarious when it came time for us to count the cores in Task Manager, because they're arranged in a unique way. So here we have, this is a standard config of what people understand, where the first half, so these top two rows, row 1 and row 2, are the P cores and their hyperthreads. The second two, row 3 and row 4, these are the E cores. So this is a 13900K, therefore we have 32 threads, we have 8 P cores, but they all have Dragon Ball Z split form technique, so they can have hyperthreading. They can do split form, and then you have 1 P core, 2 P core, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you can see the way Monster Hunter wants to work it is assigning the work to the P cores, but occasionally it will push the work to one of the hyperthreads of the P core. And then down here we have the E cores. There's 16 E cores. I'm not sure what exactly they're doing. They're doing something like this guy, CPU 20, is doing something. I don't know exactly what he's doing. This one's doing stuff. This one's doing stuff. Stuff is getting moved around. Intel Thread Director is doing its Thread Director things right now. And I see how it's occasionally alternating the work from the first thread of a P core over to the second thread of a P core. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but that's just how it behaves. But you can see we are using less CPU as a total percentage compared to the Intel Core Ultra, which was at like 54-55% utilization versus this. So we have PP, 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 E, in that order. It's very easy. Whereas when we were counting the Intel Core Ultra, we had to be very careful in where we were clicking to determine if we're on a P core or a E core, because they are not uniformly arranged. It's not all P cores followed by all E cores. It's completely different. So if you want to understand what I mean by that, go check out that live stream from yesterday, because that was the most hilarious part of the entire stream, was counting the P cores and E cores on a new Intel Core Ultra. That was probably the most fun thing about that whole live stream, if we're being honest. So you can see here we're running 64 gigabytes of system memory at 5600 mega transfers. So this is an officially supported speed by Intel. This is the maximum official speed that the CPU supports for this sort of config. And then for the GPU, we have two. We have the integrated Intel graphics on the CPU. It's doing absolutely nothing. And then we have the Radeon GPU, and which I think is also doing the encode. So yeah, so we're doing the encoding to YouTube using the Radeon's HEVC or AV1 encoder. I forgot which one, but it does either one. And then we're doing the game rendering as well. So that's the 7900 XT. It has 20 gigabytes of system memory, and the driver is from September. So that's pretty much the system. Let's go back here. Yeah, it's like alternating between. So the utilization is definitely different. Let's move around a little bit and see what this does. Let's go outside of this city. I keep calling it city even though it's a base camp. Yeah, so you guys can see it basically behaves the same. What's interesting is like unlike the Core Ultra, one thing I noticed with Core Ultra did not move anything around. So with this CPU, one thing I noticed is that, I mean, you guys can see it happening right now on the screen. The P cores are alternating the work between either the first thread of that core or the second thread of that core. That is an interesting behavior that I'm noticing, where it's periodically alternating the workload of the game between those threads. With the new Intel Core Ultra, it does not have any hyper-threading on its P cores. So if it's 8 P cores, it's literally 8 threads. There are no dual thread on the new Intel CPU. And I couldn't figure out if that is going to hurt it or it's going to help it. Now, some games, hyper-threading hurts it. Other games, hyper-threading helps. So the fact that the new Intel CPU does not have access to hyper-threading at all, like it's physically not there, you can't turn it on, there's no way to enable it. One thing we noticed, and you guys can go back and watch that live stream, is that 2 of the P cores, the 2 best P cores, were constantly pegged at 100% utilization all the time throughout the entire time playing the game. I forget exactly which cores those were, but those were the best ones, and they were constantly maxed at 100%. So, this is a little different. I am noticing that one of the P cores, actually two of the P cores, are fully maxed out. So it seems like Intel's doing the same thing in terms of what it did with the Core Ultra. It took the two P cores and it maxed them at 100% load all the time, almost like a Prime 95 benchmark. Here it's doing the same thing, but periodically, I mean, you guys can see it's these two right here. This core and this core are constantly pegged at 100% either on the left thread or the right thread, and it's parking, core parking. This one is oh, you guys can't see the yeah, it's core parking. It's doing core parking. You guys can't see the mouse over. It literally says CPU 9 is parked. This CPU, this E core is parked. It's not doing anything. This E core is parked. It's not doing anything. This hyperthread is parked. This is parked. These ones that are completely empty are parked. They are core parking. So they are utilizing a technology called core parking to turn off the cores, or at least power them down, aka park them so they can't move, so that they don't do anything. We got some core parking going on. Core parking, 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 parking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it looks like 13 threads are parked at any given time while playing this game. Very interesting. So they're utilizing core parking as a way to reduce the power consumption of the CPU and sort of keep the thread latency down by using something called coherency, or keeping the work on one part of the CPU and only moving it occasionally onto the threads due to, I don't know what the scheduler is doing, but it's some form of what looks to me like load balancing. But that is essentially what it's doing. So in a way, it behaves a lot like a 7950 X3D, but in this scenario, the Intel thread director is responsible for communicating to Windows 11 when and how and which cores that Windows should be parking. So we are doing core parking. Well, it's not we. I mean, the Windows and Intel's thread director are doing that. This is very similar to what AMD's it's a provisioning driver that AMD uses to communicate to Windows, to tell Windows. It's a much more simpler design. It's a software-based solution where it basically tells Windows, hey, if this game is running, put everything on the 3D Vcache CCD. Now there is a check to enable that. The one thing is that game mode has to be enabled. If game mode in Windows is disabled, then when the AMD provisioning driver tells Windows, put all those game threads on the Vcache CCD, if game mode is turned off, Windows will completely ignore that request and not do that. It will continue to favor higher frequency and higher binned cores over 3D Vcache cores. So this is something that we looked at in yesterday's live stream. So if you're curious about that, check out the live stream that I did yesterday afternoon on the 7950 X3D, because that is a fascinating look at how the game's threads, the processes for the game, are scheduled using AMD's software solution with Windows 11. Whereas here we're looking at Intel's thread director solution interacting with Windows. So very, very similar thing. So that's an interesting overview of how this works. Did I test the 78? No, I did not. I don't have access to it right now, so I can't I can't test it. The best I could do was 7950X 3D. But 7950X 3D and 7800X 3D are going to perform pretty much the same. As long as you have game mode turned on the 7950X 3D, as we showed yesterday, the numbers will be the same. So let's go back here. Okay, so again, we're in the lower 50s. So now we're doing a little bit better. Earlier we were like 49 to like 52, but see, lower 50s is the average frame rate for the 13900K in a CPU-bound city for Monster Hunter Wilds. So keep that in mind. It can get as low as like 45, but this is a good look at what the numbers for a 13900K and 14900K are in this game. Alright, I want to do a hunt real quick. So let's turn on frame gen, because this is what the developers intended you to use. Hey Daniel, you got the X870E Carbon? Yeah, that's got a lot. That's got a really good I/O on the back. Got a really good I/O. Your 7800X 3D with the XTX kept over 65 in the city, Ultra 4K FSR 3. Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw on the 7950X 3D. The lowest I saw it go was like 60. So that's what I'm telling people earlier. Like the winner, the best CPU for Monster Hunter Wilds is any of the X3D CPUs. Those do the best. Those are the ones that can maintain 60 in the city. None of the other ones that we looked at, including this CPU and AMD's new 9950X, neither one of them could maintain 60 in the city. Only the X3Ds can. So that's very assuring for the upcoming 9800X 3D. Alright, I think we're gonna help out Maverick. Maverick and Golem. Interesting characters. We got Maverick and Golem. Maverick is the hunter and Golem is the squire, aka the palico. Alright, Maverick, let's see you do it. Let's go in with this. Start hitting its leg. Actually, let's see. Oh man. I gotta capitalize on this. Here we go, come on. Big chunky damage, and you can guard. Hold on, facing the wrong way. Maverick fainted! Ah! Maverick died! It's up to me! And he decides to just leave. Man, what was that? Atomic explosion? Vegeta versus Majin Buu? What just happened? Am I Goku? Do I have to burst into Super Saiyan 3 against this thing? Maverick blew himself up. Golem. Whoa, Golem. Where's Golem? I don't even see him. Where is he? I see Palico. Oh, there's Golem. He's like way over there. Oh man, Golem. Golem has the Horn of Boromir? The Horn of Boromir. How did he get that? Man, great sword is so like, I don't know. This weapon's cool when you can get the combos off. Otherwise, it just feels so slow. I don't know. So, oh, what is this? What am I supposed to do? I don't even know. What? I didn't know that was a thing. That's new. That was not in world. The parry? We repelled it? The thing's like 4 times my size. And we still managed to repel it. See, this is why this is Game of the Year 2025. Just saying. Like, it doesn't get more epic than this. Ooh, that red. Go for that. What? Oh, he roared. Turf War. Valhalla. Maverick needs to watch out. Oh man. Whoa, he's getting dogpiled. Avon joined the quest. Alright, what's this other one? Let's try this other move. Let's see. Do they have anything new on wide slash? Wide slash has a tackle. Maverick fainted again! Oh man, wait. If I die, it's game over. Oh, I thought I could do that parry again. And it's game over. I thought I could do the parry. I didn't time it right. I don't even know what the button input was. I was like, I think it's gonna be either RT or RB. Oh man. If you tackled, I don't know, man. I don't know what I never even knew what that was. I'm still figuring things out, and this is the last day of the beta. This game is great, though. This is this is probably the most fun I've had playing a game in the second half of this year, because most of the games that I wanted to play for this year came out in the first half of the year, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Dragon's Dogma 2, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. We had Pal World early access, at the very beginning of the year. So all of like my major games that I was looking forward to, I've already played them. So the whole second half of this year, as far back as July, there hasn't really been a whole lot of games that I've personally have been interested in. But then this thing decided to show up with an open beta, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. Gollum, man, that was hilarious. Maverick with the atomic explosions and Gollum with the Horn of Boromir. That just sounds like a movie idea right there. Do you think GTA will be hard to run? Well, GTA 6 won't be out next year for PC. GTA 6 will only be on console next year. So, the Horn of Gondor? Oh, that's what the name is? I've been saying it wrong the whole time. The Horn of Boromir. The Horn... Oh, you're right. The Horn of Gondor. Yeah. Gollum had the Horn of Gondor, though. Like, how did he get that? That was hilarious, though. Man, Maverick died twice. See, you can only have 3 KOs. You can only cart 3 times, and if you die 3 times, so the thing is, like, if I was soloing that thing, I would get 3 attempts. I could die 3 times, and if I die after on the 3rd death, it's basically game over. So technically, no, you can only die like twice. Now that I think about it, yeah, you can die twice. See, okay, it's strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Yeah, that's how it works. But if you're in a multiplayer session, the strikes are shared. So Maverick, he did strike 1, strike 2, and then I was strike 3. And it's like, okay, it's over. Another longsword user. Maverick was using longsword. Hopefully this guy, doesn't get himself killed multiple times. And, like, I'll try not to die, but I wasn't even expecting to die there, to be honest. It's just, I keep forgetting to check my HP bar, because the Afterburner overlay is literally covering up my HP bar, so it's hard for me to see it. And the other thing too about longsword that's kind of annoying. Longsword and demon, or not demon blade, dual blades. I keep saying demon blade. Yeah, see, there's that thing. I thought there was a way to parry that because I was able to repel it earlier. Wait, well, let's try the leaping slash. Leaping slash? What does that do? Go over here. Okay, I see some other prompts for different moves. I have the kick. What did I just do? What did I just do? I didn't even know what I did. I parried it with the kick, and I like jumped over it. That was so cool. This game continues to amaze me. Like, I've already put, like, what, 50, like, combined PlayStation 5 plus PC together. I've probably put, like, 50 plus hours in this game. Whoa, that thing just did 1,200 damage. Turf War. Wombo combo. Ah, then now that thing, he soaked the damage. Okay, I gotta get rid of this thing. This guy needs to go. Like, nah, dude. You can't be here right now. Wait, hold up. You need to go away. Go away. Is he still following me? Wait, what the? What is going on here? This thing is like picking a fight with everything. Whoa. Oh, I blocked the sonic. I blocked the roar, the sonic thing off the dragon? What the? What? Power clash? Oh man, see, this is why this game is so good. Can you toggle the FPS overlay with the keyboard shortcut? Well, I'm probably gonna turn it off. I'm probably gonna turn Afterburner off after a while. But I know there's people who are gonna join the stream later, and they're probably curious what the numbers are. What were these? What is this stuff? Try wide slash. Ooh, what's the wide slash combo? Wide slash, tackle, into charge. Is there like a leap? What is this? What does this one do? Oh, okay, that's the launch one. Yeah, I remember that one. Look at us trying to do our combos. Look at all these great sword users doing the, is there like a parry? I wonder if there's a parry. That'd be so cool. Oh boy, he doesn't like me. Wait, what? Oh no, not this again. I pulled out the fishing pole. Build for now if you need for now. Wait, what are we talking about? Oh, someone's asking about that. I am brand new to PC. You're building one. Just bought a bundle from Micro Center, which has the Ryzen. Yeah, I know exactly which bundle you're talking about. Oh, you got the one with the X870E? Wait, they have bundles that have X870E motherboards? Well, what computer do you currently have? The question is, what are you using currently? Like, what are you upgrading from? That would be the question. Oh, the opportunity has arrived. Oh, I gotta get that leg, the hind leg. Keeps turning around. Actually, might rotate it to go at... Okay. No, I'm on the wrong side. Ooh, that was a good parry. Lag. Are we gonna get disconnected? Oh. What are we trying to do here? Oh no, not that guy again. Radeon, go away. No, I'm asking what... You haven't answered the question yet. What computer are you currently using? Oh wait, is he wanting... do I have bombs? Oh yes I do. Alright, hold on pal, hold on pal. Wait. Oh, wait. Let him go to sleep. Let him go to sleep. Alright, never mind. Ooh. Is the leg on the other side still? Okay. Oh man. Go watch my video from 2 years ago. I built a, well, no, last year. Go watch the video I did last year for the Steel Legend build. I built the 7950X3D PC last year with a X670E ASRock Steel Legend. So that you can use that as a guide. Man, this is so good. But you never answered the question. Like you were saying, like, should I return it? And so I don't think you should return it. But I asked, what is your current PC that you're upgrading from? Mystery bone, sturdy bone. Oh, no computer. Okay. That was a good hunt. 14 minutes. That was very entertaining, too. I got the Power Clash achievement. Clasher. This game is full of surprises. I'm still figuring stuff out. I gotta switch to a different weapon now, though, just to keep changing things out. Yeah, no, the PC, like, if you follow a build video, you'll be able to figure it out. Oh. Setup for the CPU. Hold on, let me see. What was it called? It's the video that I have. Let me see. Steel Legend. Ryzen 9 7950X3D and ASRock X670E Steel Legend PC build Yeah, it's a video from last year. Just, I guess in my channel, just search for like, I guess, just search Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, and it should be the first one that, no, actually, no, never mind, that's not the first one that comes up. If you search by that, it's like the 4th video, at least for me, it's like the 4th one. You'll see the thumbnail shows the X670E Steel Legend box, and it shows a Deepcool AK620 box in the thumbnail. And the title of the video is Ryzen 9 7950X3D and ASRock X670E Steel Legend PC build, Agisa 1007B. It did not include the setup. What setup? Oh, you mean the BIOS? You're talking about the BIOS? You don't actually have to do anything with the BIOS unless you... Okay, the only thing you need to do in the BIOS is you need to enable your Expo or XMP profile. That's a separate video. You don't have to do anything. No, you don't have to do any of that stuff. All you gotta do is build the PC, and then... Oh, are you asking how to install Windows? You just install Windows, I guess. I mean, that's it. Oh, I didn't cover that. Yeah, for that you're gonna either have to find another video walkthrough, or do you have? I mean, that's pretty much it then. Like, if you know how to do the Windows part, then that's it. All you do is you build a computer and you install Windows on an SSD, and that's all you do. That's it. It's that simple. You just install chipset drivers. You don't have to do anything. Guys, it's plug and play. Like, it's not rocket science. All you do is you install the stuff. You install the stuff that comes with the motherboard, or you install the, you just go to the website for your motherboard, and you just install whatever's on that website support page. That's it. It's very easy. Now, I mean, okay, I understand. I'm saying that as someone who has built probably like 100 plus PCs. You know what your motherboard is, right? You go in Google, you search your motherboard. You go to your motherboard's website. So, what is your motherboard again? It was the Micro Center bundle. It was the Aorus. Was it Aorus? Or was it the other one? I know you have an X870E. I forgot what the... Oh, no. Wait, no, it's not Nova. What was it? Man, the chat's moving too fast. I can't find where it is. Or yeah, Aorus X870E. That doesn't tell me enough though. Like, what you just said, Micro Center bundle. What's the actual model? Aorus is a brand. It's either Aorus Ultra, Aorus Pro, Aorus Master. You know, like, what's the actual model? X870E, Aorus, whatever. Like, Elite, you know, like, Elite Wi-Fi 7. That's the model. So then you would go to the website. I'm assuming this is it. Hold on. Where's the... This PC is not set up to show any of this. Like, the browser is super outdated. Man, everything is, like, so... Hold on, now I gotta move this around. Alright, I guess we'll just put this here. Where's the stream? Where is... Okay. Is it this one? Yeah. So... You got... Oh, why is this so big? You go to the website. It looks like this. I assume this is the motherboard. The Aorus Elite, X870E Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7. Then you click on support. Then you click on, well, it defaults to downloads. And this is it. All the stuff that's here, plus chipset. You need to, well, in this case, yeah, these are the things. Well, you don't have an NPC. You don't have Ryzen 8000, so you do not install this. You have, this is the one. This one, I guess this one. I think this is the driver for the integrated graphics. This one is the chipset driver. So this is the one, like all the core parking stuff, like the thread scheduling stuff for the 7950X3D, that's on here. What happened to this? Why did it shrink? Anyway. That's all you gotta do. Like those, the audio, which you might not even have to install because Windows 11 might already preload that. And then the LAN driver, this assumes that you even need to do this. It depends on the motherboard. This is Windows 11, this is Windows 10. So just choose based on the operating system. The SATA, this doesn't actually, you don't need to install this unless you are doing RAID, but I don't think most people are going to do RAID, so that's not needed. The Wi-Fi driver, the Bluetooth driver, the MediaTek one. So you need to, this is based off of which one you have. One of these, so it depends on whether or not your motherboard has a Realtek or a MediaTek. If you don't know, just install all four of them. And then this is where you would get the BIOS updates. So the latest BIOS here adds the turbo mode for the upcoming Ryzen 9. So anyone who is planning to buy the 9800X3D, so in your case, you don't have to do this unless you want to, but for the people who are buying a 9800X3D on launch day, if you do buy a motherboard, you will have to update to this latest BIOS in order for the PC to detect and actually boot up properly with the X3D CPU. Otherwise, it'll probably do nothing. But yeah, that's the BIOS. You don't have to do this unless you are going X3D. Like I mean 9000 X3D, not 7000 X3D. And then this stuff is completely unnecessary. So it's really just going to be driver section, the chipset, the LAN, the Wi-Fi, and the Bluetooth. And that's basically all you need to install. And maybe the audio. That's basically it. Okay. Technically, you don't have to do the BIOS stuff. I would do the BIOS stuff last. So just get all the software stuff on there and, you know, make sure it's working. Then you can worry about the BIOS update. I mean, some people disagree with me on that. They think you should do the BIOS update first. I don't do BIOS updates unless I have to. So, case in point, if you want to run the 9800X3D, you are going to have to do a BIOS update. Otherwise, you don't have to do it unless you want to. I like to operate on the if it ain't broke, don't fix it principle. So that's the reason why I'm not always on the latest driver. See, a lot of people in the consumer market... Oh, and thanks for the sub. A lot of people in the consumer market, they think you need to be on the latest of everything. And in general, that's a good practice. You know, developers fix bugs, etc., whatever. Sometimes they introduce new features with new updates. However, in the business world, it is the complete opposite. The only time companies are going to do BIOS updates or security patches or software updates are if there are severe vulnerabilities or severe critical issues with the software or the firmware, and if we're talking about BIOSes, that forces them to actually do those. Because in the professional world, most people operate on the if it ain't broke, don't fix it principle, unless it's like a security vulnerability thing, which then they have to patch. But the point that I'm making is you don't always have to be on the latest and greatest software update or chipset driver or video driver or firmware BIOS, whatever. You don't always have to be on the latest one. And sometimes it's better to wait it out and see if there's any severe problems with the latest and greatest. So I tend to be more conservative on like BIOS updates and driver updates and things like that, unless I run into a severe problem or there's some known issue, like for instance the recent issues that were in the news regarding this CPU, the one we're streaming on right now, the Intel 13900K and the 14900K, did the same thing. You wanted to update the BIOS for this as soon as possible. You didn't want to stay on the BIOS, otherwise you could be at risk of damaging the CPU. Like that kind of thing is what I consider a critical severity 1 issue that needs to be addressed. You cannot just leave it on fire and let it kill itself. So the real world is I guess the business world is completely different from the enthusiast world, where people are like, oh, I see driver update, I must download and install. Like, I don't really operate on that principle. So that's why maybe that's why I don't have any problems like with games crashing or issues with software. Like, I don't know, everything just kind of works. Like, there was someone here the other day that was like, hey, how come you're able to use FrameGen with Afterburner and it works seamlessly enough? I don't know. I mean, because it wasn't working for them, or it was crashing when they tried to enable FrameGen. So I told them to turn off Afterburner and do it, and then it worked. So it's some kind of weird thing going on with whatever they were doing with Afterburner. But anyway, that's more troubleshooting like software things. Chris, thanks for the sub. Welcome to the channel. I don't know. See, sometimes people sub to the channel while I'm streaming, and they're not actually watching the stream. They're actually subbing because they're watching one of the YouTube videos. Quite often, that's the case for a lot of the people that subscribe while I'm live. Believe it or not. So, but that's how YouTube works. It's not like an alternative website where it's all about like streaming as opposed to video uploads. Many businesses you've seen did some work for have not had new systems in 20 years. One of them always digs into the systems and adds mismatched RAM or forces Windows 10 on 15-year-old PCs. Like, yeah, see, that's different. There's a distinction between if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and this thing's wheels are about to fall off, but we're still going to keep using it, and it's not supported, and we can't call any tech support from the vendor because the thing's been out of warranty, end of support for like 4 years already. You know what I'm saying? And in the business world, things take a lot longer to go end of life, end of support, compared to the consumer world, where, you know, that's why I tell people, you know, like, you upgrade your PC either 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. You can do any variation of that. Some people upgrade every generation, but those are more like hardware enthusiasts. And then there's people who wait like every 2 generations, but then that still kind of falls into that 5-year product life cycle. So the consumer market, they're not really privy to these kind of things, like from the manufacturer's side, like how, like for instance, Intel and AMD making these CPUs and the GPUs, and like how long they have to support a product way past the time they brought it to the market. Like for instance, the 7900 XT that we're streaming on right now, this GPU is about to be 2 years old next month, and after that, shortly after December, AMD will introduce a new series of graphics cards alongside NVIDIA, with NVIDIA's new graphics cards, because they're operating on a 2-year refresh cycle for new product. So this is a standard thing. You don't need to watch somebody who has leaked info to understand when a new product is going to show up. You know, you just understand how things are designed and brought to market and supported, and then retired and then replaced. You know, that's just how it is. That's how computer hardware has always been for years. Now things have slowed down. You know, you don't see new graphics cards every year. It used to be that you would have new graphics cards every year. Not every other year, every year. Now it's like every 2 years And give or take, sometimes it's every 24 months, 26 months, or sometimes in some cases it used to be like 20 months to like 28 months. Somewhere in that range, it's still the case for a lot of these things. AMD used to launch on NVIDIA off here. Yeah, that's what yeah, you're right. AMD used to be the odd-numbered year, and NVIDIA used to be the even-numbered year. So NVIDIA would launch, for example, AMD introduced Tahiti, aka the HD 7970 and the 7950 in the end of 2011. NVIDIA introduced the GTX 600 series in 2012. AMD introduced the Hawaii GPUs, the RX 290X, or the R9-290X, and the R9-290, etc., in 2013. That was an odd-numbered year. NVIDIA introduced Maxwell, aka the GTX 900 series, in 2014 with the GTX 980 and the 970. Then AMD launched the R9 Fury and the Tonga and all the other stuff. The RX 300 series refresh was in 2015. And then NVIDIA launched Pascal, aka the 10 series, with the 1080 and the 1070 and the 1060 in 2016. Then you add 2 more years, or you go look at 2017. AMD introduced Vega 64 and 56. Then in 2018, NVIDIA introduced RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti. So they used to alternate. You used to be, if you wanted an AMD card, you would be on an odd-numbered year if you wanted the latest and greatest. If you wanted an NVIDIA, you would be on an even-numbered year. But all of that changed during the pandemic. The pandemic basically brought forth something known as the dark times for PC hardware, and we don't need to go there because it was a very dark place for a lot of people, with like having to pay exorbitant amount of money on a graphics card in that time due to scalpers and supply constraints and all this other stuff. But that was what kind of changed the landscape. You know, AMD and NVIDIA basically got crunched into the same year. The consoles went along with them. Intel had always kind of been doing its thing, like just kind of off in La La Land, doing whatever, like launching product every year on TikTok cycle, but it was basically a bunch of rehashes of the same thing over and over again, aka the meme 14 nanometer plus. I think there were 6 of them total. So that was kind of a thing that was going on too. So yeah, 3060 Ti, the average selling price in the US for the 3060 Ti in summer 2021, even in fall 2021, was over $900 US. That's right. A lot of people that bought a 3060 Ti in 2021 paid a grand total of $900+ dollars. So, yeah, that's why we refer to it as the dark times for computer hardware. But anyway, we went on a huge tangent. Man, I feel like this stream has had more like random tangents and discussions on computer hardware than actual Monster Hunter. Although we've kind of interwoven like some interesting, entertaining hunts in there, here and there, you know, so that's kind of cool. Before I pick up one of these, I actually want to swap weapons. So instead of the greatsword, let's go longsword. I don't know how to use this weapon at all. And I need to showcase the lance, so we're probably going to have to mix the two between the longsword and the... Actually, do I need to... Probably need to re-eat a meal here. Let's do that. Yeah, see the problem? The AMD cards were also scalped, and they were also way overpriced. But the problem for the AMD cards were they were so low in supply that they were like magical unicorns if you could find one. Especially the RX 6800. The RX 6800 was that rare unicorn that if you told someone you saw a 6800, they thought you were literally lying. But that was a very interesting time in PC history. Scalpers doing scalper things, supply shortages causing the problem to be even worse, the pandemic shutting down the factories, causing the whole supply chain to get backed up, and causing it to stall out, leading to like a terrible delay in product getting distributed globally. Then you had the people in the harbors not wanting to deliver anything. And then on top of that, you had all the crypto bros show up with Ethereum. And yeah, that's a recipe for disaster for anybody who wanted to buy a graphics card just so they could play Monster Hunter World back in the day. Yeah, I remember the John Travolta meme stream. The one where he's all like, you know the meme I'm talking about? John Travolta walks up and he's all like, the fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. 24/7 live streaming. And the alerts going off. 3090, 3080, PS5. Like the horn of Gondor was sounding off every time like a 3090 showed up, and then it would be gone as soon as you click the button. Yeah, man. You guys remember the Jake Randall live streams to buy a PS5? Secure the bag. That was such a weird era in history for anyone who was like a technology enthusiast. Such a bizarre time to exist and be alive. Having to watch Fix It, Fix It, Fix It to try to secure or play the Newegg Shuffle and pay for a power supply that you don't need. Or worse, a motherboard that you don't need. A motherboard from like a 3-year-old CPU. You know what I'm saying? It was just like overstock. Wait, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm not even using the thing. I'm using the longsword. I don't even know what I'm doing. It's just I'm doing anime moves. Wait, did I switch roles? Revo is using greatsword. I was teamed up with Maverick earlier using the... He was using longsword. I was on greatsword. Now it's like I'm on longsword. He on greatsword. I don't know how to use this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What? Wait, what am I supposed to do? I'm hitting my own mount. Like, this is ridiculous. Oh, that was nice. Hold on. Overhead slash. Spirit blade. How do I do the foresight slash? Oh, man. This thing is over the top. So I can samurai slash them? I don't even know what... Man, at least with greatsword, I had a general understanding of what I'm supposed to do. This sword, this thing, I have no idea what's going on. All I know is it's like I'm an anime style fighting. Just like the dual blades. He went to sleep. Oh yeah, we gotta let him do his thing. Yeah. Wait, hold up. Oh, no, no. Well, that was quick. That was over really fast. Oh, man. This game is so good. You can see how this game is good. This is gonna be like the next Hogwarts Legacy game for me. Like, and what I mean by that, for those of you that are new, last year, there was a thing where it's like every time I would do one of these live streams, I'd be trying to finish Hogwarts Legacy, and it took me the entire year to finish Hogwarts Legacy because we would basically, I would start up the stream, that we'd be talking about technology-related things like the whole time. So I'd only make like 2% progress in the story per stream. It was hilarious. So it's like the going meme was that I would never finish Hogwarts Legacy because we'd keep going on tangents talking about stuff like this. I think this is going to be the replacement to Hogwarts Legacy. This is that game. It's that type of game. The one thing that's cool about this game, though, is I can still be talking to the chat and still be accomplishing things in the game because the game's not super dialogue heavy with story and stuff, although I'm sure there's a lot of that in the final product. Yeah, these temperatures, though, man, 98 degrees Celsius, 99-100 Celsius. Those spikes on that 13900K are hilarious. Big temps. Big temps. I'll still have to draw paint though. Yeah, for when it's appropriate. We're not gonna whip out paint just to whip out paint and just like, you know, draw doodling or whatever. It's like alright, I need to test the lance, and I think I'm pretty much... Balahara is my favorite monster in this whole thing. Like, it is so hilarious. Radeon and that big one, the one that looks like a giant, I don't know what it is, like a woolly mammoth. The one with all the fur, that one and Radeon are annoying. This thing is just comical. Grind games are best for ship. Yeah, I know, right? Like Final Fantasy Dawn Trail. Like earlier this year, when Dawn Trail came out, we did a whole bunch of streams like this, and all I was doing was fate grinding the whole time. It was hilarious. I mean, well, it wasn't hilarious. It was just, it is what it is. You know, like I was just maxing out my reputation on capping the what do they call it? The gemstones or whatever. The currency for the fate grinding in the new zones. I'm on the Ether Data Center. I'm on Adamantoise. Yeah, we will be doing some Final Fantasy XIV. I don't hardcore raid in that game anymore. I haven't been a Savage Raider in Final Fantasy since Gordius, believe it or not, or Midas, which is way back in Heavensward. So I haven't done any of the Savage content. I don't have a good static group, and I don't do Party Finder for Savage. That's just not my style. At least not until it's like it's irrelevant content. You know what I'm saying? So don't expect me to showcase any like Savage. I don't cover Final Fantasy that in depth. But I'm a long-time player of the franchise. And I've been playing since 2.0. So, and I come back and I play every expansion. But yeah, we'll be covering the patch that's coming out in November, actually, this month. Yeah. So the live letter happened recently. So 7.1 is coming real soon. The 24-man raid, Vanadil from 11 is making its return into the franchise. Oh, you're on Gilgamesh? Oh, you're on like Happy's stream? Or not Happy's stream. Happy's, I think he's on Gilgamesh. He's like the only main Final Fantasy streamer that I still watch from time to time. He's what I call the OG, because he's been into the series as long as I have. Well, no, I mean he's been in since like 1.0. Like, the guy is like he's like the best resource as far as I'm concerned for Final Fantasy XIV, for sure. But I don't know. He also plays a lot of games that I also am interested in. Like I think if I was gonna be a Final Fantasy, if I was gonna be like an actual game streamer, like Asmongold and S-Fan and all those type of people, or I'd probably be more like Mr. Happy, to be honest. Like personality-wise, and also the type of games that he likes. I think both of us have the exact same taste in games. Like he's streaming this. He might actually be streaming this right now. He did Romancing Saga. He does a lot of like the JRPGs, which is probably what I would be streaming if I was actually a full-time streamer. Just saying. Like if I wasn't doing PC hardware as my audience, I would be doing the same exact type of games that he would cover. Oh, I need to do that e-ice. How do I do that? Is it this? Oh, Fade Slash. Ooh, okay. Yeah, he and I ran Palace of the Dead, like, grinding levels a long time ago. This was, like, pre-Stormblood. We were, like, grinding up to go into Stormblood. I think it was, like, Samurai and Red Mage. It's been years, though. Like, it's been years. Ooh, that's a cool-looking animation. What? Oh, okay, that's how you do it. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch like a video on how to learn this weapon to do it properly. So just randomly figuring things out. I know it has that gauge. I gotta do the normal slashes to build up the sword on the left, which I can barely see because of Afterburner. Ooh. Yeah, Happy's playing this game with a Ryzen 7 5800X, and I think he either has an RTX 3080 or he swapped to like a 4070 or 4070 Super. But I know he had a 3080 and a 5800X for a very long time, basically since the pandemic era. He basically has what I consider the pandemic PC, like someone who's either on a 10th gen Intel, 11th gen Intel, or a Zen 3 Ryzen 5000. You know, those are the type of PCs that were popular in that time, like 4 years ago. Oh, I guess I didn't have enough gauge? The sword wasn't glowing or something? Oh, thrust attack. Yeah, I mean the... Hold up, how do I get this thing to go? Honestly, the people that I've watched for Monster Hunter, I watched Happy's stream a little bit this morning just to see like what people were doing, like if he was doing anything. I also checked Rurikon. Rurikon is probably like the main authority. Like if Happy's the main resource for Final Fantasy 14, Rurikon is what I consider the main authority, or not authority, but like the main resource for Monster Hunter, like this franchise. So I've been watching a lot of Rurikon for this game. Ooh, this is so cool. These animations are so flashy. Rurikon, it's interesting seeing what streamers actually use. Rurikon uses he streams this game with a Ryzen, it's a Ryzen 9 5900X and a 6900 XT. So he's playing this on, again, you know, technically a pandemic PC. It's like a 4-year-old computer. So both him and Happy are on like Zen 3. And Happy's using a 3080 or 4070, like they're basically kind of very similar in terms of performance. And then Rurikon's using a 6900 XT, so Rurikon's GPU is a little bit more powerful, but they're having a similar experience. So, like, and that's the reason why the people that were complaining on the Steam forums and all that stuff about, oh, the game runs horribly. Oh boy, yes, fall down. A lot of times, I feel like it's people not understanding how they're supposed to be using the computer. Like, are they running on a GPU that's meant for 4K? Are they running on a GPU that's meant for 1440p? Because it's like the streamers aren't even using the highest end gear, and they're not having any problems at all. So You know, like, that's why I don't really... I'm not saying that people who are complaining about the performance don't have a valid complaint. It's just... the unfortunate reality is that they don't understand that their hardware is just not meant for certain spec. Like, they're trying to run the game at 4K, and they're on a 4-year-old graphics card, or if they're on a mid-range graphics card like a 4070, you know, they're not gonna have a good time playing this at 4K resolution. Actually, let me try the, let's try the focus mode. Oh, and he died as soon as I wanted to try focus mode, he died. Yeah, but the thing is, see, what I have a feeling what some people did was they held on to their 4-year-old computer, but then they bought like a newer monitor. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe back 4 years ago, if somebody bought a pandemic PC, they were using a 1080p monitor. So they were totally fine. But maybe they, in the last year or two, they may have upgraded to a 1440p OLED or, you know, a high refresh display. And now, all of a sudden, their PC can't keep up because they changed something, in this case the monitor resolution, and now they're having a problem that wasn't there originally. So there's situations like that where or I guess pitfalls that people fall into, and then they kind of blame developers when it's really not the developers' fault for something like that. Yeah, OLED, exactly, man. 1080 Ti on a 4K OLED, 240 hertz. The ironic thing about that is the 1080 Ti doesn't even support DisplayPort 1.4, nor does it support HDMI 2.0 as far as I remember. So it can't even, like, the color space is limited, if that makes sense. So you'll never be able to get the full, you'll never be able to witness the OLED's full potential with a 1080 Ti, because not only can it not handle that in terms of the refresh rate, it can't actually handle the color space. So it's like it's bottlenecking the display in ways that the person who bought the display is most likely not even aware of. Alright, let's do one more. And this time I'm going to switch to the lance, because I think that's the only weapon that I have not showcased on stream besides the longsword. And now we've done longsword, so, and I still don't really fully understand how to use it, but I'll figure it out later. Or maybe I'll just go back to World and learn it on World. May need to start streaming World next year, or at least maybe... Well, we don't have any time this month, because this month, in terms of the gaming content on the channel, it's all going to be PS5 Pro focused. So we're going to be looking at how the PS5 Pro runs UE5 games like Lords of the Fallen, how it upscales and improves Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Stellar Blade, basically the games that make it worth having a PS5 in the first place. The PS5 exclusives. So mostly Rebirth. You can expect to see me streaming Rebirth, Stellar Blade, Lords of the Fallen, a whole bunch of like PlayStation 5 games on PS5 Pro coming soon. Hold on, I didn't do my discount. Somebody subscribed, and I'm sorry I missed that. I don't know if that was a live viewer or if that was just somebody from one of the YouTube videos. I guess I have to have gauge to do this. Do I have to do focus strike? Or fade slash? Oh, I'm using the wrong weapon. I'm supposed to switch over to... Hold up. I said I was going to run lance. Fuck this. Yeah, okay, let's try this. One, two, three. I can do a charge counter? Oh yeah, I still somewhat remember how to play this. I remember this has the run at them. Yeah, you got the charge. Still have the charge move. In fact, I can do it right here. Yeah. Where are you going? Okay, maybe I should have got on the mount. This is less efficient than I thought it would be. Wow. Oh, I forgot to... There's also a... ooh, nice counter right there. So this is a good beginner-friendly weapon. I would say Lance is for beginners. It's easy to pick up and learn, and you can also block, so for survivability, it's excellent. I would say it's a little bit harder to use than the sword and shield. It's certainly not as mobile. Yeah, but that looping thrust, guard dash, that thing where you leap at them. Wow! What power clash? Return thrust. This is Sparta. King Leonidas. Man, this is awesome. It's so cool how, like, the other player that I team up with, the rando always has, like, a weapon that complements the one that I chose in the showcase. It's like the other player's using the bow, which is hilarious because it's range, and this thing's like a tank. That's like the rush. All right, let's see. Let's focus and see if there's actually any. Okay, I like how you can dodge. You can strafe from. Yeah, there we go. Alright, yeah, Lance is still Lance. It still seems like pretty good. Very good beginner-friendly weapon. It's easy to pick up and play. This is what I would recommend someone start with besides sword and shield. And if they want to play range, I would recommend the light bow gun. That's the easiest ranged weapon to pick up and learn. Heavy bow gun is slower and it's definitely more advanced and nuanced. And then the bow, if you want to... Like, I like how this game has... It has anime weapons, and it has, like, more realistic weapon. Oh, I say that realistic, as if anything in this game's fighting is realistic. But the anime weapons are, like, long sword, dual blades, and the bow. Like, if you wanna, like, fight like a anime character with a ranged weapon in this game, you go with the bow. The bow is stylish. Like, they have stylish weapons, like long sword. Well, okay. You can style on the monsters with like every weapon in the game. I mean, and that's the thing about this game. This game really it rewards players who put in the time and effort to truly master the combat system. It has a very, very deep combat system. So it looks really weird and simple on the surface, but it's actually really, really deep. Like, and there's a reason why this franchise is really, really big. And I know a lot of my viewers, my regular viewers on the technology side, they probably have never even heard of this franchise before. And they're like, what is this? But the nice thing about the open beta is that it allowed everyone, regardless of platform, to test it out. So that was really cool that Capcom made it an open beta. And they did it pretty long. Basically, PlayStation, they had it a few days earlier, but pretty much everyone got like 50 plus hours minimum if you were super hardcore and you only played it on PC. So, alright, well, I guess that's pretty much it. Did almost 2 hours and 30 minutes showcasing this. I think that's all the weapons. Trying to think, I showed Switch Axe. Did I show Switch Axe? I know I showed Switch Axe on the console. Longsword and Lance were the only two that I don't think I covered until today. Trying to think if I have footage of the Switch Axe though. May have to do a Switch Axe hunt and that'll be the last one. Hope Lance. Hunting Horn had the best hunt in the entire beta. The most fun was with Hunting Horn. So we did Great Sword today. I did Sword and Shield yesterday. Charge Blade was yesterday. Gun Lance was yesterday. I know I did 7 weapons yesterday. I think the other ones... I think Switch Axe is the only one. I think I did Dual Blades. I guess we'll go Switch Axe. And then... what should the last one be? Dual Blades? Just Dual Blades. Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, we used the Insect Glaive a lot yesterday. That was one of the 7 that was showcased yesterday. Oh, another night fight. I like the daytime ones. I don't like the nighttime. Let's do this one's gonna go by really fast. Another nighttime though. Radeon, let's see. These can go really bad depending on how long. 9 minutes ago? Oh, that one's too late. Hold on. This one, 3 minutes ago. Daytime play. Okay. Yeah, this will be the last one. On the phase transition, I have to switch to the other weapon. I have to remember to do that. Do I have a camp that's close by? I still don't know how I feel about this new map system. I really liked the one from World. It was far more simple and easier to navigate. This one, I don't like how it rotates. Whoa! What the? Oh man, the Switch Axis is so good! It has Wild Swing into Morph Sweep. It's still got that. I don't know how to stand on the monster though. Like, there's a way in World you could like jump up when you do the Y plus B. This, depending on the angle, you could like climb up on the monster. But I have not been able to do that in Wilds. Man, this thing... This is another one that I consider actually pretty beginner friendly. Switch Axe is another really easy one. It looks cool. It's not as slow as the Great Sword. I think it's far more stylish than the Great Sword. Anyway, let's switch over to this other one. What is this? Oh, Dual Blades. Yeah! Dual Blades is straight up anime fighting. With the demon thing. Like the... Why is it not activating? Oh, I have no gauge. Oh, yeah! They have this new, like, dodge thing, too. See, double strike, circle slash lunging strike into demon morph. And then they still have the evasion? Yeah, it still has the fast evasion. This is like Rogue from WoW. This is like a Rogue from WoW. That's what it reminds me of. But you know what it really reminds me of? Levi from Attack on Titan. What? See that spinning in the air stuff? It's so anime. You want to fight like an anime character from Attack on Titan? Dual Blades is the weapon for you. That's the thing that's so cool about this game. It has like a weapon that appeals to every play type. If you want to play like you're playing a shooter, go light bow gun, heavy bow gun, or the bow. You want to do anime style moves? Demon Flurry. What? Demon Flurry? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Alright. Alright, but I think that basically is it for the stream. That covers everything. Parts broken twice, wow. I think it's all starting to come back to me. After having not played Monster Hunter World for like 4 years. It's all starting to come back. So hopefully Capcom does another one of these, or they have like a demo or something that comes out closer to launch. But yeah, this is it. See, that's gonna depend on the use case for the PC. Threadripper is in a completely different category. You know what I'm saying? Like, Threadripper is not meant for a typical consumer-based desktop. Like, it is a true high-end desktop. If you watch the Friday live stream when we were covering Monster Hunter Wilds, we were streaming with the Threadripper 7960X, and this thing is a beast. It is a insanely powerful high-end desktop processor, which is not really meant for consumer purposes, although, I mean, you could technically game on it. You could do everything that you could do on a regular desktop with it. It's going to come down to the like the actual use case, because Threadripper is offering an insane amount of PCIe bandwidth and memory bandwidth too that the regular Ryzen CPUs just don't offer. Like the laws by which they are governed are just too different, is what I say. So it's like they're completely different classes of products. Yeah, the 1% loads. That's because it has quad channel memory. It has quad channel memory, no GPU lane sharing, so you get full bandwidth all the time. But it's meant for a different use case. Basically, the purpose of streaming on Threadripper for Wilds was to eliminate any sort of resource limitation that would manifest on the hardware due to the way the game was designed. You know, it's just basically brute force with hardware to make the game run well. Because when the beta first went live on PC, I was reading the Reddit post and the Steam forums, and people were instantly complaining about performance. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, yeah, just to be safe, we're gonna have to whip out Threadripper and see what happens. It's like throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the game to see what, like, just to see how the game is supposed to run well. That was the whole purpose of using Threadripper for that. But if you're just building a desktop computer for normal everyday usage and gaming, the Ryzen 9000 is probably what I would recommend for most people. Threadripper is going to be significantly more expensive. Not only is the processor very expensive, the motherboard is very expensive, and the RAM is very expensive because you cannot use regular DDR5 unregistered DIMMs, aka UDIMM. You have to use registered DIMMs, which are RDIMM, which are server memory. So not only does Threadripper have a very high, steep price point, or the entry point is very expensive. The RAM you have to buy is also pretty expensive relative to regular DDR5. So the whole package is going to be significantly more money in terms of an investment versus any Ryzen 9000 or any Intel consumer desktop processor, if that makes sense. 4-channel memory, yeah, I don't think so, to be honest. At least not in the next 2 to 4 years. I don't see it happening. Possibly, but I don't really... You have an interesting point about quad-channel memory, because I know in the server world, they use like 8 and 12 channels of memory, so to them, quad-channel is nothing, really. So, yeah, that's an interesting idea. I don't see it happening, mainly because the way I see it, the mobile market and the desktop market are kind of converging into one. We have seen that recently with this. The Intel Core Ultra, I think one of the reasons why it is so underwhelming is because this is essentially a laptop CPU. And I think a lot of people seem to miss the point on what Intel's trying to do with this. And it's kind of sad because the product has its merits, but the general consensus is that, oh, it's bad at gaming, therefore it's trash, and everyone should just ignore it and buy X3D or buy the previous generation Intel. And it is true. I mean, as I've shown, I streamed on this yesterday. It does do significantly worse than the 13900K that we're streaming on right now. And it does do worse than obviously X3D is significantly better. It does do worse than the Ryzen 9950X. 9950X was significantly better than Intel Core Ultra in this game. So that's kind of all you need to know to conclude that, okay, it's kind of like a laptop chip that they adapted to desktop so they could get more energy efficient parts to market. And it's still going to be dual channel. But I think AMD is kind of doing a similar thing, or they're thinking of doing a similar thing. Because the reality is, Intel is taking what is essentially a laptop part and they're bringing it to desktop. AMD, on the other hand, is taking what is essentially a server product and they're bringing it to desktop in smaller form factors like Ryzen 9000, for example. So it's like they're both attacking a problem, in this case the PC desktop space, from two different angles. AMD's coming at it from like server style design, and they're like scaling it down to only a few CCDs, either 1 CCD or 2 CCD for desktop. Intel is taking a laptop chip and they're scaling it up to be able to support more PCIe lanes and connectivity and that kind of thing. So they're both coming from two different angles. And then AMD also, to make things even more confusing, AMD also does have the mobile stuff that they're bringing into desktop, aka the 8700G that launched this year, and then next year we're going to see the HX370 stuff on desktop as well. So that'll be interesting to see, because I really am curious to know, how does Zen 5, that's meant for monolithic laptop scenarios, how does that work on desktop with that new architecture? So that'll be really interesting to check out next year. So I already have plans to cover that hardware on the channel in the future, as well as anything that Intel decides to do next year as well. So that's the way I see it. The quad channel memory thing, I don't see it happening, mainly because that just drives up the cost on the motherboards, to be honest. Like, that makes the motherboards more expensive, and the motherboards are already very expensive at the high end, at like $500, $700. So unless they bring quad channel and they keep the motherboard prices the same, I don't see them doing quad channel, because you still have to sell a $300 motherboard, a $200 motherboard, and no Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, ASRock, none of them are going to want to design a quad channel motherboard and sell it at like $300. It's just something that's not going to happen. So that's kind of the reasons why I don't expect us to see quad-channel memory show up on like standard Ryzen or standard Intel in the near future. So you have to invest if you need the bandwidth. Yeah, if you need the PCIe lanes, if you need the memory bandwidth, that is why Threadripper exists. So, and it almost was gone. You know, like Threadripper was missing in action for an entire generation. We never got Threadripper 5000 in the high-end desktop variant. We only got the workstation variant, which was insanely expensive for most people. So, hopefully they do a Threadripper 9000. I mean, that would be pretty cool to see that come out next year. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know what the reason for that was. I think some of the reasons, if I had to guess, I would say that the reason why Threadripper 5000 never made it to desktop was because AMD was too busy trying to take market share from Intel in the server space with EPYC. They could sell EPYC for far higher profit margins than they could Threadripper because, you know, regular individuals can't afford EPYC, whereas they can afford Threadripper, or at least a few of them can. So there's that. And then the other thing too was Intel didn't really have anything. Like Intel basically abandoned the high-end desktop. In fact, Intel is still not in high-end desktop anymore. Intel does exist in the workstation class. So like AMD has Threadripper Pro, which is the W series, the WX series Threadripper. So that is like a whole nother tier above regular Threadripper. And Intel does compete with AMD in that space. They have Xeons that they sell in that market, but they don't compete with AMD in the regular Threadripper market, or what is known as HEDT, high-end desktop, like true high-end desktop. Like a lot of people think that their 13900K is a high-end desktop CPU. It's actually not. It's a mainstream CPU, and they don't like hearing that. But that is the truth. Same goes for the 7800X3D, the 9800X3D, the 9950X. All of those are mainstream products from the manufacturer's point of view. So they're not high-end desktops. No, the 7950X3D is not a high-end CPU, or it's not. It's, by definition, it's not. It's a mainstream. Different market, different segment, different sets of capabilities. In terms of it's only dual channel, it has like way less PCIe lanes, so you're having to compromise, you're having to pick and choose, or do I want a motherboard that has more M.2 drives, and I'm okay with sharing GPU lanes, and running my GPU at X8 lanes, or it's like, no, I don't want that many M.2, I want my GPU to always run at 16 lanes. There's a lot of like compromise that occurs in the mainstream platform, and when you're on Threadripper, you don't have to think about that because you literally have all the bandwidth that you would ever need. So it isn't even a thing that crosses my mind. If I'm thinking about building a Threadripper, like, I don't have to be concerned with where I'm gonna plug my graphics card in the motherboard. I can plug it in the top slot, I can plug it in the bottom slot. It doesn't matter. It's gonna have full 16 lanes no matter what. Whereas on the Ryzen X870 or the Intel Z890, it's like, oh, I have to plug the GPU in the first slot because that's the only one that has the 16 lanes. So it's like there's a whole lot of limitations that you have to deal with on a mainstream desktop that you completely bypass if you go with Threadripper. But again, you know, they're meant for different things. You feel the new Intel Core would have been fine had the price been right. Ryzen 1 was much cheaper and way to get a foothold. From a core standpoint, yes, Ryzen was definitely much cheaper. But Intel's not really, like, the way I see it, Intel doesn't need to change the pricing because they're already coming in at a competitive price. Like, I don't know what people expect the price to be. There's a difference between like, oh, it should be the right price versus like, how does it actually line up with what the price should be based off of the appropriate segment, if that makes sense. So as far as I'm concerned, Intel's pricing their products correctly. Like, I don't see anything wrong with Intel's pricing on their processors. I think that too many people, particularly reviewers, these tech reviewers, I'm not going to name any names, but in general, I think that the vast majority of tech reviewers, websites, and like video media, they were expecting it to deliver in areas where it under-delivered. And I think they overemphasized those key points, namely gaming performance. And they undermined the things that the CPU is actually pretty good at. So in terms of it being more efficient than the 14th gen in basically everything, and the platform itself is actually vastly superior to the previous generation. Z790 cannot offer a Gen 5 SSD without taking lanes from the graphics card. That is something that has plagued Z790 as a platform limitation since Z690 was a thing. But Intel's Core Ultra being on Z890, Z890 finally brings direct parity between Intel's new Z890 and AMD's X870E. Now both platforms offer guaranteed Gen 5 SSD slots without taking lanes from the graphics card. AMD has been doing this for 2 years, though. Intel finally caught up to them. So, where AMD has been ahead of Intel in platform connectivity and capability, Intel now has finally closed the gap, and in some scenarios has actually surpassed AMD on the platform side. You know, offering things like Thunderbolt 5. However, Thunderbolt 5 is only available on very, very expensive motherboards like the Asus ROG Extreme, which is a $1,000 motherboard. So it's kind of a moot point, but as far as I'm concerned, Intel is now either equal to AMD from a platform standpoint on desktop, if not slightly ahead of them, if that makes sense. And no one talked about this. See, these are the things that not a single reviewer ever mentioned. All they did was complain about how it's slower in gaming. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's faster in productivity, and it's more energy efficient, but it loses in gaming, therefore it's terrible. You know, that's what most people said about Intel, if not everybody said that about Intel's new Ultra-Core. But the Ultra-Core is totally fine. Like, I mean, if I was going to recommend... Well, okay, let's say this. I won't go that far. I don't think I'll recommend it today. I don't think it's ready for prime time. I think it needs probably a few months of BIOS updates and things, but... It delivered in the areas that Intel said it would deliver, and it fell short in the areas that Intel said it would fall short. Although I guess Intel was a little bit too optimistic on some of the marketing, with the gaming side especially, but they did set expectations appropriately. Yeah, it's a good productivity CPU. It's a good productivity CPU. The only problem is... AMD's also good in productivity. See, that's the other side of the coin. That's part of the reason why the messaging from the reviewers has underlooked or overlooked the productivity, because at the end of the day, AMD is technically still better than Intel in productivity, and while also still being more efficient. So there isn't really, like, it's a weak argument to say, oh, it's great for productivity. But it's like, okay, but the 9950X still outperforms it in most of the productivity apps, and it's more consistent in terms of the gaming experience. So see, that's the reason why it's kind of a really weird, slippery slope to try to argue in favor of the Intel Core Ultra when it comes to productivity, because it's not like you can't just get an AMD CPU and do productivity on that either, right? Like, case in point. This is my top choice right now for my personal system that I use for Tech Thursdays. I'm using a 9950X. I mean, I could easily use the Intel, but it's like, why even bother, right? Like, the AMD one is more consistent. There's no difference in the cores. They're all the same. It still has SMT, so you still get the doubling of threads. So you still have 32 threads on the highest end. So it's yeah, I mean, it's kind of a problem for Intel. And the AMD one still uses less power. It's more efficient. It's better performing most of the time. Not in some cases, Intel does win in some productivity tasks, which is very commendable considering they got rid of hyperthreading. So they actually have a thread deficit. So that just goes to show how impressive their new E-cores are. But the E-cores are not really beneficial in gaming. I mean, that's the reality. Or single-thread workloads. And that's the reason why it's like such a weird product. It's like, as soon as I see a positive aspect to it, I see like 2 negative drawbacks to that same feature, or that same sort of aspect. So it's such a strange product, and that's ultimately why it got such bad reviews. On top of that, all the instability, all the blue screening, and the driver thing with Windows 11, that certainly did not help. And that's the reason why I feel like it was not ready for launch, because those are the sort of things that should not have happened. Like the product was already in a compromised state, reputation-wise. The last thing you want to have happen is blue screening while installing Windows, and driver mismatch problems if you have discrete graphics cards enabled, for example, while the integrated graphics is also enabled. So it's like, these kind of things really sealed the deal on basically making it fail in the reviews. Like, it just came across as incompetency to someone who's not that like in the know on technology. It just looks like it's not a good product. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So it's unfortunate because it does have its merits. But, you know, I mean, Monster Hunter Wilds runs better on the 13900K. It runs better on the 9950X. And we're talking like 9950X with no X3D. And this thing still beats Intel's Core Ultra by a good margin. And then on top of that, you got X3D. And that just kind of seals the deal for the gamers, right? So it's like, man. Now it's like you can play the game with the highest frames and you're like sub 60 watts, you know, on stock. Like, we aren't even doing anything with Curve Optimizer. So it's like, so yeah, Intel's definitely got challenges. Intel's challenges right now are trying to compete with a more scalable architecture. And where AMD's challenges are completely different. AMD's challenges have always been about getting more volume into the market, getting more manufacturing capacity from TSMC, selling more product, flooding the market with volume. They can't do that the way Intel can, although the irony of the whole thing is because Intel is using TSMC to manufacture these, Intel will not be able to profit as much from these as they previously could have, because they're no longer vertically integrated when it comes to the manufacturing side. Having to pay TSMC is putting a massive damper on Intel's profitability, and it's really hurting the company because they're not as lean and small as AMD is. They have to pay thousands of employees globally salaries and bonuses, and they have to pay their salespeople commissions that close these contracts with like Dell and HP and all this stuff. So Intel has to pay their employees an insane amount of money, and they also have so much more overhead than AMD does that it's basically like you're trying to steer a aircraft carrier through the Panama Canal while you have wildfires on your left and right. Meanwhile, you got AMD over here on like a fisherman's boat or like a yacht just cruising on through that canal, no problem, because it's lean and it's quick. You know what I'm saying? So the difference in scale between AMD and Intel, it's literally, to use a biblical allusion, it's literally the story of David and Goliath, if that makes sense. Whereas AMD's the little guy and Intel's the Goliath. Just saying. It's always been that way. And now when the big guy's losing technologically and potentially financially, now you have some severe problems that manifest in the public's eye, and it's not a good look. So that's why Intel's in the spot that they're in. AMD, on the other hand, their challenge is they need to get the word out that they exist, They need to make the consumers understand that they are the best. They are legitimately and objectively superior to Intel right now with their architecture and their product offerings. They're more energy efficient in data center. They're more energy efficient in gaming. They're more energy efficient in mobile, although Intel has closed the gap significantly with the recent Lunar Lake. However, AMD really needs to get their name out there so that the general public knows that they exist if they want to overtake Intel and become the industry leader in terms of the name that people recognize when they think of a CPU. That's what AMD needs to do. That's their challenge. So it's a completely different set of challenges compared to what Intel has. But anyway, this was another like way deeper tangent that I did not expect to go into on a Monster Hunter Wild live stream. Even considering it's also the last day of the beta, it's kind of insane that we went off of this type of tangent. But anyway, guys, that's probably going to be it for this stream. That was like a whole nother 20 minutes to the live stream. Wow. We do these live streams every Thursday, so the gaming ones are on the weekend. I don't always stream the games like this. This is just because Monster Hunter was doing, like Capcom was doing the open beta. Everybody needs to come and experience the greatness that is Game of the Year 2025 before 2025 even shows up. So that's why we were doing this marathon of testing different PCs, different hardware configurations, seeing how they run this game, and that's pretty much it. So if you're new to the channel, do get subscribed if you like these sort of in-depth, these free-form discussions. We do this sort of stuff every Thursdays. I am live on a show called Tech Thursdays. So if you want to tune in and ask questions live on things related to PC gaming, PC DIY, building desktop computers, high-end desktop computers like Threadripper, etc. We cover all of that in depth. So do get subscribed to the channel. It does help me out. We are trying to grow the channel now. We're going to be doing more content on the X3D CPUs because the 9800 X3D is coming out soon. So we're probably going to do a live build video with that CPU later this week. And then the PS5 Pro is also going to crash the part. Well, actually, it's the other way around. PS5 Pro is launching on Thursday, and then the 9800 X3D is going to crash the party with like a live stream build. So expect to see a lot of gaming content focused toward PS5 Pro, and then the PC stuff will be focused on X3D, and we're going to be looking at overclocking the 9800 X3D. So if you're someone who wants to get into overclocking for better performance, do stay tuned because we are going to be doing a lot of videos and live streams on that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of Tech Thursdays coming soon. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.